Fantastic. Thank you, Lord. It is now 6:02, and I call this May 17th, 2022 City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Loretson.
Here.
Councilmember Hill.
Maybe on his.
Councilmember Luna
Max-
Lael.
Max is late too
Here.
because of the prior.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Here.
Councilmember Fergency. On the way here probably. Yeah. Councilmember Tharp.
Present.
Mayor Lobby.
Here.
Thank you.
So right this minute, Tim and Max, are we expecting them to?
I know Max talked to me ahead of time and said because of the backup of the Laura meeting, that
Right.
he would be late because he's going from his house to here.
Okay.
And I imagine similar. for Tim.
Then we'll check him in whenever he gets here. And we weren't sure about Tim because Tim was on the Lure meeting also.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll see how it goes. Okay. At this time, we have somebody who's sitting in for Christiana. I'm going to let Lori introduce her.
Great. So our city attorney, Christiana McCormick, is on vacation as of a few hours ago. So Evan King of Michelle Cox and McCaskill is sitting in for us as the acting city attorney this evening, and she is in the square on the upper side on the left. So welcome, Evan.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I would ask for approval of the agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to add or remove? Please don't add. By any means.
Mayor,
Yes, please.
I have a feeling there will be plenty of conversation about the stop signs on Pine this evening. Is that something you'd like to be part of public comments or add?
It would have to be public comments since it's not on the agenda. Sure. Anybody else? I have a couple changes. The first change is we'd like to move 9D up to 9A. Just as a matter of the senior motorcade, letting them go first. The other agenda item I want to remove, 10C. That was a resolution that was basically instructing a county elected official how to do their job, which is inappropriate. What we have decided instead is we're going to write a letter requesting that that help from that particular official, and I'll deliver that tomorrow.
So we're removing 10C.
10C, that's right. Any other changes? I would entertain a motion, please.
Councilmember Tharp moves to approve the agenda with said modifications for the regular council meeting of Tuesday, May 17th, 2022.
Seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All were in favor. And we have both Tim and Max here at this time. Housekeeping matters. I'll go first. I wanted to let you know I got what I consider the final draft from Community Banks for the lease of their parking lot. We've been working on it for quite some time. I sent it back to them today saying, if you'll get me a final, we will sign it and send you a check. So that's pretty exciting. 2 down, 2 more to go. And also, I tell you, we have a small committee that is reviewing the land down at the rail yards. And we'd like to come to City Council with a recommendation in the near future. In reviewing them, some of our choices changed in terms of what we saw on the ground when we had a big tape measure out there, and we think we have a spot that will accomplish what we want to accomplish. But again, that'll be a recommendation we'll make to City Council. Any other housekeeping matters?
Where are we on the parking sign removal and communications?
Communication has gone out. We have now added 4 people to the list where we will not remove the signs right now until we have the replacement signs for mobility impaired. And that list may grow, but those are the 4 people who have come to us. 3 of them have placards. 1 of them is in process.
And have those started to come down now?
They have not, to my knowledge. Any other housekeeping matters? Okay, thank you. At this time, we would entertain public comments on items that are not on the agenda. If you would like to speak, please come up and introduce yourself, give us your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Betsy Kalmeyer. I wanted to show a few snippets of videos I have that kind of support what I'm saying, but I wasn't able to coordinate that ahead of time. So I'd like to ask you all to envision this, please. Your next door neighbor has made a dirt bike track on their property and allows multiple users to use it 24/7. What is a reasonable number of users? 5, 10, 25, 50, 100? Would city council have any recourse to stop this? This happens behind my house every day, all year round, dirt bikes, ATVs, snowmobiles, anytime, day or night, very loud motors, fast, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. In the front of my house, just 10 minutes before I left for this, there was a guy going about 60 miles an hour doing a wheelie. That was on the street. Most of my complaints has been on the trail behind my house. The trail goes right next to the school playground entrance and exit. There's areas where people walk, run, ride bikes. It spills onto the mineral belt now. It's gotten so bad, people wait till like dusk and then they just drive 50 miles an hour down the mineral belt. People are walking their dogs out there. I have people going by 9:30, 10:30, midnight. ATVs want to blare their music too at midnight, even later than that, but sometimes I'm like too tired to look at the clock to see what time it is. The quantity, the speed, the revved up engines, the noise level has become unbearable. I think this is a health and safety issue. I know you have a rule, Title 8, health and safety. I would call this a definition of nuisance. There's also Title 9, peace and welfare. Could be part of that too. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's a joke in Leadville. You know, I just see this getting significantly worse every year. That people are allowed on the street. Well, they're taking advantage of that too. They're not just going from point A to point B. They're doing it back and forth constantly, day in and day out. I can't sit on my deck. I can't be in my backyard. I can't even be inside my house and have a conversation with people. Instead of, I have to stop and wait for the dirt bikes and ATVs to go by so I can talk again. This is just a free for all in the city and in the streets. And I don't think it's fair to the citizens. I don't think it's fair to law enforcement. I think you should make it illegal and it would be much, much, much less of a problem. I thought communities could only be more strict than state laws. I guess there's some flexibility there, but I would ask that you guys be more strict and not
Betsy,
allow
I'm sorry,
this.
your time is up.
Okay,
I would ask if you would give your phone number to the police department. And then we can have that conversation.
And
Thank
also I'd like your contact information as well.
Sir.
No, sorry, but thank you, John. Anyway, who's next who would like to speak to city council? Please step up.
Nobody else?
My name is Jenny Schellig and my husband Ron and I live at 145 West Fifth. We are here to ask you to reconsider pulling most of the stop signs on Pine Street, or at the very minimum, we are asking you to study the impact it would have on the street. Harrison is a busy part of the main highway connecting northern and southern Colorado through the mountains. looking at CDOT vehicle count, we found out that in the latest set of data, which was in 2020, the first year of the pandemic, when travel was low and businesses were closed, over 8,000 vehicles drove on Harrison on an average day. We know that the number of vehicles has dramatically increased since. Now, imagine the additional traffic if only a small portion of it is channeled through Pine Street. It has been brought up that the east-west streets don't have stop signs. However, east-west streets do not serve as alternative routes to the main thoroughfare. The data from CDOT shows that only a small amount of vehicles driving through Harrison disperse onto the side streets. Pine already sees quite a bit of traffic. Taking the stop signs away makes Pine the faster alternative route to Highway 24. If taking almost all the stop signs down is implemented, Pine has the potential to become the new Highway 24 on a busy day. Pine Street does not have the infrastructure to support that type of traffic. There are no crosswalks, no sidewalks to speak of. The intersection of Fifth and Pine is a busy confluence of pedestrian and vehicle traffic, going to schools, the post office, pump track, ice rink, yoga studio, food bank, and more. If anything, Fifth and Pine should be a four-way stop. We are concerned that the increasing number of vehicles and speed on Pine will increase the hazard to pedestrians, especially kids, and will deteriorate the quality of living on Pine Street. Please investigate the consequences before implementing the plan of making Pine Street an alternative route to Highway 24. This change can have a profound impact on the community. We urge you to consider the negative impact around Pine Street versus the couple of minutes saved driving through town by pulling the stop signs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Just as an FYI, I think we've had some conversations, but I think we should have this on a future city council agenda as an agenda item.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next.
My name's Peter Farbish, and I reside at 509 Pine Street with my son and 11-year-old daughter. I'm also here to address the mayor and city council's plan to remove the stop signs that control traffic traveling along Pine Street. In recent years, the drastic reduction of vehicle traffic capacity on Harrison was imposed. Pine Street has become far less safe as a result of many motorists utilizing Pine Street to bypass the traffic backup at the traffic signal on Harrison and 6th. As a result, the traffic flow on Pine has greatly increased over the years since the change, especially between 8th and 3rd Streets. The Pine Street section between 4th and 6th and the 5th Street crossing of Pine carries by far the greatest number of pedestrians and cyclists. It's lots of parents with kids and groups of kids without adults. If anything, the intersection at 5th needs to be upgraded to a four-way stop with pedestrian crosswalks. You have pedestrians accessing the post office, the campground, the church, the synagogue, the yoga studio, the county buildings, and the school, and many recreational facilities down 5th. This area in particular needs more safety devices, not less. Stop signs are safety devices. On Pine Street, they are the only safety devices. There are no crosswalks and very few sidewalks. The stop signs are there to help control vehicle traffic flows and speeds through the densely populated residential area with arguably the highest pedestrian traffic volumes after Harrison. If anything, they have become inadequate as a result of the increased traffic, the stop signs, that is, and more safety devices are needed, not less. And, you know, who developed this plan? It's my understanding that the mayor and the city council came up with this alternative. And I ask, are you all qualified? Are you trained or certified pedestrian road safety professionals? Are the decision makers involved in this proposal trained or certified in MUTCD standards, and that's the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways. These standards, these define the standards used by road managers nationwide to install and maintain traffic control devices, which stop signs, of course, are one of them, crosswalks as well. So this is the, road managers nationwide use this information to determine, what the safe devices are and how. to,
Peter, I'm sorry, but
maintain
your
them.
time is up.
Can I just?
Thank you.
Another sentence.
Please, go ahead.
Finally, I found out that the vast majority of residents and users on Pine Street that I've spoken with, which is a large number, were unaware of the plan to remove the stop signs. And just about everybody I spoke with is vehemently opposed to the idea. I just think for safety's sake, really, this plan needs to be put on hold, and professional experts need to be consulted as to, what might be an alternative and safer plan of action.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Could
you.
we get your name again, sir?
Peter Farbish.
Who else would like to speak?
Good evening, City Council. I'm here in my capacity as Sarah Day, your Executive Director for the Tabor Opera House. Hopefully you've all heard that we've announced our official comeback season for 2022. We had a 2-year hiatus, as many of you know, because of our pandemic. We're super excited about this event season. There's some creative opportunities for different activation in the spaces, not just on the theater, as well as some old favorites as well. Season tickets are on sale right now. They're $100 each and gets you into all of the shows for the entire season. There's 5 events scheduled that are just specifically under our umbrella, as well as some future, hopefully, opportunities to partner with the city for some city-specific events. I do have posters. I'll leave them here. Would love to have them spread around. I will be delivering them all over, as well as wrap cards. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're just doing a full media campaign and blast on Facebook, in the Herald Democrat, etc. We want everyone to come out and celebrate the comeback season at the Tabor Opera House and celebrate the great work we're doing there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Day.
Thanks very much. As a comment.
Sarah, please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Sarah Mudge, 613 East 7th Street. I'm sorry, I have a conflicting meeting. I wanted to come to council tonight and mention and speak to my concern and disappointment with council and the URA's approach to resolving the matters between the city and the county. It seems clear that the folks at the table are not productive, and I'm not sure if that means that we all need to get at the table, but certainly threatening lawsuits is doesn't seem like a good thing for anyone. And I think we can certainly be more productive in that. It concerns me. It further concerns me as a fellow elected official moving into these conversations with council around housing and the partnerships that we're exploring there. And so as a city citizen, I implore council to invest in staffing, because I know as an elected official, one of my highest priorities is to make sure that the work that I'm a part of is instilled and holds, my staff has that, and I'm not sure how y'all are doing it, being part-time folks at council and really not having a staff. I'm kind of at a loss of who to go to and how to communicate with council if you're one staff member responsible for kind of housing everything is not the person to communicate with to then communicate to council. But I implore council to invest in staff for the city. It's going to be incredibly important so that we don't take steps backwards with all the progress that we're involved in together. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else up on Zoom who would like to speak? If so, either raise your hand or maybe just unmute and introduce yourself. Not seeing anybody. Last chance. There are a lot of people in the room who look like they have something to say. Okay, can't draw them out. I tried. Okay, thank you for those comments. We really do appreciate it. As you know, we've been saying this for years, but a lot of times city council ends up making decisions in a vacuum because we don't hear from the public. We're hearing from you tonight, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. We will tackle them one at a time. First minutes are from April the 12th, 2022. Okay, if nobody has any issues with minutes of April 12th, I would entertain a motion, please.
Green moves to approve the minutes from April 12th.
Seconds.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Hill abstains.
Fujensi abstains.
Thank you. Next up, so we had 5 approvals, 2 abstentions. The minutes of April the 19th.
I am wondering if we could add a line between item C and D that I left the meeting. Sorry about that. Just to explain why the votes suddenly went from 7-0-0-0 to 6 with 1 absent.
Okay,
Thank you.
did you get that, Lori?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any other additions of, yes, please.
Just a small typo on, under housekeeping matters. It should say not instead of not.
Thank you.
Any other changes? Fantastic. In which case, I would entertain a motion.
Member Fujensi moves to approve the minutes from April 19, 2022.
Seconds.
Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, not roll call. Never mind. I'm doing too many things in my head at once. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Next up, we have the minutes of April the 26th. First observation is there's too many meetings.
I'm busy.
And they're way too long.
This got me all angry
Or
about
both.
Jimmy John's again. I did not want to read about that.
What's that?
Got me all mad about Jimmy John's again. I did not want to read about that.
Yeah, maybe we should check on that. I was gonna ask that question in the reports. Okay, thank you. Any changes to the minutes of April 26th? I would entertain a motion, please.
Councilmember Luna moves to approve the agenda of April 26, 2022. No seconds.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All were in favor. Yes. Thank you. At this time, we have the privilege to have Judge Floyd give the oaths of office to 2 new police officers and a new police chief.
Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Hey, could you turn your microphone on?
Thank you.
Paparazzi close to you. So, Mr. Martin, would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, William Martin Jr.,
I, William Martin Jr.,
do solemnly swear by the ever-loving God
do solemnly swear by the ever-loving God
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado,
the laws and the Constitution of the state of Colorado,
and the municipal laws and code of the city of Leadville.
and the municipal laws and code of the city of Leadville.
I will hold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration
I will hold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration
to a person's race,
to a person's race,
color,
color,
sex,
sex,
religious,
religion,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap,
handicap,
or disability.
or disability.
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties of an officer of the Leadville Police Department with fidelity,
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties of a Leadville police officer with fidelity.
I enter this obligation freely without any reservation.
I enter this obligation freely without any reservation.
Congratulations. Oh, you know what? I was gonna say, yeah. That's what I get for coming up here without my glasses. You can sign that one. Will do. Sorry.
We'll let that be Will's copy.
And we'll get a,
I'll take care of the other.
yeah, copy. Okay, thank you. Maria Porzo? No. Thank you for your service. Of course. You raise your right hand, please. I, Maria Porzel,
I, Maria Porzel,
do solemnly swear by the ever-living God
do solemnly swear by the ever-living God
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado,
and the municipal laws and code of the city of Leadville.
and municipal laws and code of the city of Leadville.
I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration,
I will enforce, obey, and uphold the laws without
consideration
consideration
to a person's race,
to a person's race,
color,
color,
sex,
religious creed,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap, or disability.
handicap, or disability.
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties of an officer of the Leadville Police Department with fidelity.
I affirm I will uphold.
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties
Perform the duties
of an officer of the Leadville Police
of an
Department
officer of the Leadville Police Department
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
I enter this obligation freely without any reservations.
I enter this obligation freely without any reservations.
Congratulations.
Okay.
You can have that one. Perfect. I'll take that one. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chief Edwards, please repeat after me. I, Hal Edwards,
I, Hal Edwards,
do solemnly swear by the ever-living God
do solemnly swear by the ever-living God
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of
the
Colorado,
Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado,
and the municipal laws and code of the city of Leadville.
and the municipal laws and codes of the city of Leadville.
I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
without consideration to a person's race,
without consideration to a person's race,
color,
color,
sex,
sex,
religious creed,
religious creed,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap, or disability.
handicap, or disability.
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties of a Leadville Chief of Police with fidelity.
Say that again.
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties
of a Leadville Chief of Police
of the
with
Leadville
fidelity.
Chief of Police with fidelity.
I enter this obligation
I enter this obligation
freely without any reservation.
freely without any reservations.
Congratulations. Excellent. This one is for you.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want these to go to?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
I still couldn't hear you. May I congratulate? Oh, please do.
Absolutely.
I know Will and Maria. Al, I don't know yet, but I'm sure we'll get to know each other. These both have military experience. And I think they're cool.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, sir.
Go talk.
We will. Well, when that warrant is served.
No, they're.
Yeah.
See you later. Even though Will's an expert rate, I like him. You guys have to get involved.
Thanks. We're about to do department reports. We're about to do department reports. This is a very long agenda, so I'm going to ask each department head to give their report in one sentence or less. No, not quite that brief, but I'd like you to be as brief as you see fit. Thank you. At this time, we have the police department report.
Okay, well, we just graduated Will and Maria, as you can see. Monday, the 9th, Brenda Caraveo and Aaron Barnett started the academy down in Breckenridge. They'll be graduating, I think it's the 22nd of August, around there. Big news is we're moving full speed ahead with our Mineral Belt Bicycle Patrol program. We have the equipment. We're going to be beginning.
How timely.
How about that, huh? Yeah. One of the things that they will be doing is reporting criminal activity if they see it, i.e. homeless encampments, illegal ATV/dirt bike riding, those sorts of things. We're going to start their training tomorrow and move forward with that. Hope to get them deployed by around the first weekend in June. So they're going to be the eyes and ears of the police department, and hopefully we can address some of these issues out there and get ahead of the curve on the e-bike, the proliferation of the e-bikes. We're working together with the e-bike rental companies as well as the wheelers and the Mineral Belt Committee to come up with some rules and regulations. Our city manager, Lori Simonson, wrote the city ordinance for the city of Moab concerning e-bikes on bike paths. So we're going to be taking a close look at that too. So.
The federal government did change the rules on e-bikes on trails. So it's just something we'll have to look at.
Yeah, a lot of agencies are revisiting the issue.
Okay, thank you. I do have a quick question. The radar trailer, I know we have it. How quickly do you think you'll put it in play and where?
Well, we're going to put it in play soon. We just got some wheel locks for that trailer as well as
that's
the
a good
old.
idea.
Well, yeah. You think? So some of these areas like on Pine Street where people have concerns about traffic and speeding and things of that sort, those are the places that we're gonna deploy it. But we just got those wheel locks in.
Okay.
So now we can start giving serious consideration as to where we're going to place this thing.
Thank you. One other thing I'd like to say is The proliferation of dogs at large has exploded, it seems like, in the last couple months. I'm not sure exactly what we need to do, but we need to find the people who own those dogs and cite them into court.
We recently had one of those perpetrators did show up in court. But was that Chris?
We actually had two of them.
We actually, yeah, okay, so, but that is something that is on our radar, that these dogs are extremely hard to catch. And we lost our animal control officer, as you know, but we're going to work to try and find somebody to replace her.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief?
I have a question about the Mineral Belt Patrol.
Yes, sir.
How will they be patrolling? Will they be using e-bikes themselves or?
No, I don't have e-bikes in the budget, but we're going to be using conventional bicycles.
Seems like if you're patrolling e-bikes, you might need an e-bike.
Or a motorcycle. Just.
We're
Future consideration.
Down the road, that's definitely something that we would consider, but it wasn't in the budget this year. A good quality e-bike, you're looking at probably $4,000 to $5,000 per unit. And we just didn't have that in the budget this year. And so we're gonna go out there with conventional bikes this year and kind of see how it goes, test the waters, and then we'll move on from there.
I can personally attest to the fact that Hal can probably keep up with an e-bike, so.
Yes, after riding Vail Pass with Lori last Friday, she can too.
All right.
Swear her.
Thank you, guys. Anything else for the chief?
Two questions, if I may, Mayor. Chief, is the PD involved in any STR enforcement at this point?
What type of enforcement?
Short-term rental compliance?
Yes.
Okay.
The short answer is yes, but yeah.
And then second question, thank you, is just want to make sure I'm reading this chart for April right. So this chart, does that mean we had 8 calls in the month of April?
You're talking about the dogs? Or
There's
which one are you looking at?
5 dogs at large, 1 informational, 1 impound vehicle, 1 theft. Is that the total amount of calls we had?
For dogs at large, that was, yeah, for April, it was 5
And then
calls.
adding those all together, did the Leadville PD have 8 calls in the month of April or?
Well, this is for CSOs.
Oh, this is just for CSO.
That's just CSOs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there comparable data for what types of calls we're getting beyond the CSOs?
That's something that I'm working on with the sheriff's office.
Okay.
They have access to data that we don't have access to. And the data tracking, acquisition, data mining is a long-term project that I'd like to get accomplished, but I have to have the cooperation of the sheriff's office because dispatch is the source of that data. And so the answer is yes, but it's a project that's in the works. Of course, we just got a new interim sheriff. He's just getting his feet on the ground. I think that, and I've had this conversation with him. I think that we need to actually publish crime data so the public has access to it, and that so we can tailor our police response and resource allocation according to where we need it. And that's something that I think is long overdue in this community, but it's going to take some time and some effort, and I'm working on it as something I want to do, but
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're thinking about it. And yeah, I'd love to, if in the future, if it's possible to be able to see that type of data would be great.
yeah, I'm with you on that 100%.
Mayor, may I?
Please.
And just add on to that as clarification that our current emergency responding callers live under the sheriff's office, correct?
The dispatch personnel?
Dispatch, yeah.
Yes.
There is a plan to change that in the future. I don't know if it's actually a plan, it's a thought. That needs to change.
Right. Yes.
Right. Anybody else? How's it going, Max?
Great.
Yeah. Next up, fire department.
Good evening, everybody. The most quick update I can possibly give is our Type 6 engine just got back from New Mexico. They're out there just near Las Vegas, New Mexico for a 14-day turn out there, so they're back home safe. They went over there and helped a community where they're in massive destruction right now. So that's good news. We'll probably go back up on the board once we get the maintenance on a 602, or maybe put the tactical tender up. Go out on deployment here again soon. So as you can see, I didn't do the normal monthly report. I actually did an annual report. I apologize for getting it to you so late in the year already. My plan was to get it to you in February, but that didn't happen. So I'll just go through it real quick. One of the highlights that I'd like to point out is that our call volume, 68% increase since 2017. We're having those emergencies at the same time. We'll be on an emergency and another time will go out, and that will happen up to at least 5 calls at the same time with one engine company, 2 ambulances. Puts a strain on emergency services. So I want to be able to provide the statistics for you to let you know that that is kind of the trend that we're experiencing in Lake County. Our call volume increased again this year. It's over 1,000 calls. That's historic for our agency. I think back in 2012 when I took over the chief position, we were in the 600 range. So, and right now, currently, I really feel like we're not capturing all of the calls that we actually do because of the software, the real dated software that we're on. So you might see change in that when we go to English Train, which is coming on board here pretty soon. We just got CAD integration with that new software. That's kind of our last piece in that puzzle. Engineer Zach Slutsky has been instrumental on building out that software for us for the agency. So we're hoping maybe late June, early July to be able to switch over to that. So you'll see some different statistics when I give them a report. So you'll see some on the Station 2 aspect. These numbers I got actually from our manager for the project itself, project manager of a budget of 2,660,000. So these aren't real, these are approximate numbers. Obviously, we need to get through the process and we'll kind of figure out where those are. But those are broken down on all the grants and the donations and everything that would happen, county, city, and fire department out of fire fund balance. And then the next page on there is 3.5 million in the past 12 years or 10 years. I'm sorry, 10 years that the agency has brought in, and then it's kind of it's broken down just after that. What we spent some of that funding on, the $1.3 million on some of the equipment expenditures. Part of that 3.5 is the grants that we did for staffing, for the recruitment and retention, for the residency program, etc. Those types of things. So, and then it's just a quick overview, 1 through 7, on things that we're trying to provide still for the community members. If you just want to take a read at those. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I have 2 questions. Type 3, still September, as far as you know?
September, October.
Okay, sorry I asked.
It's a month later.
Yeah, got it. Oh, and the Type 1, if we purchase the Type 1, what is the delivery schedule on that?
3 months.
Okay.
And I'll hear more of a presentation later. It's on the agenda this evening. Yeah, a discussion about that.
Good point.
Thank you, Chief. A few days ago, when that smoke came in quick and it turned out to be the controlled burn over across in Aspen.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of system for being able to communicate better with the public about if it is a fire in Lake County or not? Or I think, whenever that smoke comes in, everybody's wondering, is there any process of that?
I would say I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Which
Social media
Facebook
platforms are-
channel though?
Social media platforms are a good way of doing that. There is ways. Right now, I'm waiting for the emergency manager to get on board so that we can start getting some of the other ways that we've had in the past, like call 211 for a message, or we can send out an iPause, which, beams off the cell towers and goes to everybody's cell phone. Just not only local, but, people that are visiting. We can do reverse 911. If people sign up for Everbridge, we can send out an Everbridge page. Thankfully, that smoke came in, cleared out pretty quick because I reached out to Tim and Tim contacted the emergency manager over there. And I think shortly after your phone call, the smoke just started dissipating. Now, I don't know.
Wow.
Heavy guns, man, but I noticed the difference after the fact. And I know that they were doing an elevation above 7,000 feet where there was still snow. But with the winds that we had that day, I think it just blew into Lake County, and I think everybody was very concerned. So I do plan on working on that with the emergency management through our, probably through our interagency meetings, and then also, to get him on board so that we can get that process still set back up for the community.
Thanks. I'm glad you're thinking about that. I know that's a big collaboration because it involves a lot of different folks and departments. I do think it's important. I definitely had a lot of neighbors asking me and calling me, and I would love to see those messages bilingual as well, at least in English and Spanish. And if possible, if including in the city, if we could have something on our website, I think that would be good, because people might check the city website, even if it's just like something very short but useful would be, I would advocate for that.
We currently don't have anyone who, Sarah Day is helping
Yeah.
us a little bit with the website. We're
Yeah.
very lucky to have her. But she also now has a full-time job. So we are lacking in help right now on our website.
And I'll add to that. One of the things I think that we have talked about, not just in the emergency services aspect, and I think it's been brought up in the city as well, and also in the county, is a public information officer or something. To add to that so that the message can get out to the platforms that people can get to get the information.
Yeah.
But you have a PIO.
I have a PIO for the fire department specific, yes,
Okay.
but not just
Gotcha.
broad.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions for the chief?
I would just like to add on to that. I did see the article in the Aspen Times about the prescribed burn, and I'm paraphrasing, but it basically said, this won't affect the Roaring Fork Valley. Like, they didn't even consider us in the winds or anything, and maybe that's a question for Max, but what the?
Well, as
what
a
the hell?
prescribed, there is a notification system that is supposed to occur, and I don't know if Lake County is part of that notification system when there's burns over in the Roaring Fork, but if we're not, it's easy as to request to be part of that notification system.
We were called in the morning of the fire department direct, and so was dispatch. I don't know if the communication on that, there was a disconnect because I think somebody called our communication center and said, oh, well, I think there's a fire down on County Road 10. But so there was a little bit of disconnect there, but they did call us, but better notification would be great.
Yeah. Prescribed fire, the burn boss should think about where their smoke is going, right? And so they didn't really think about that, I don't think, but anytime that there's a fire over on the other side, I think that perhaps we can expect and anticipate smoke in our valley.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, street department, you're up. Tommy?
Good afternoon. So the hours of our work hours, we had snow plowing 17 hours, snow removal 25, sanding 16 hours. Patching, we had 240, equals out to 23 tons of cold patch. Alley work, drainage work, 122 hours. signage repair, 24 hours, lights, 8 hours, administrative work, 68 hours. Building maintenance, 144, cemetery, 4 hours, equipment, 56, police vehicles, 40 hours. County assistant, we're helping county with snow removal around Turquoise Lake. That was 20 hours. Out of county truck, 16 hours to get cold patch. Total hours, 1,024 hours of total working hours. Last I heard, we were getting our new sweeper, 6 weeks from. So now it'd be 4 weeks till we get our new sweeper. We've been using the old Johnson, sweeping the city streets. Everything's good, working away on Leadville Street Department.
Okay, any questions for the street department?
I have a quick question.
Please.
Tommy, you mentioned that you were helping the county with snow removal on Turquoise Lake Road.
Yep.
Would you happen to have a ETA of when that road's gonna open?
The last I heard, I was talking to Norman, the one that works for County Public Works. And he didn't have an ETA on when it was gonna open. I know they still had a bunch of ice around the lake. So they wanted it to melt before anybody drives on it. With the grader and V-blade, they were cutting into the pavement, which they didn't want to do that. So they wanted to just let it melt.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I happened to ride my bike around the road yesterday, and the snow is clear. The reason it's closed is they're replacing a culvert up on the north side of the loop there. They've dug out a big trench and they're replacing a culvert up there. So that's the reason why it's closed, but the snow is all cleared away.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the street department? Great, thank you. Next up, animal shelter.
Hey, everyone. So we hired our assistant manager, Jenna here. So she does have former shelter experience, so that's a big plus. Our current animals have changed. So we do have 3 animals. One is a hold for a domestic violence case. One is a medical dog. One dog is up for adoption. And then we have 1 puppy that was surrendered yesterday. We still have the 5 cats. One is feral. So after we can get in at the vet's office to get him neutered and up to date on vaccines, he will go to a barn home. And then 1 cat is getting transferred back down to Ark Valley. It was adopted from Ark Valley, but it was from transferred in at the beginning of the month or brought in due to a death in the county. Shout out to Shanti for helping us. I came in one morning and the shelter had flooded. The hose on the washer broke apart, basically. So it flooded the dog room and the lobby. He fixed that for us. And then we also had another plumbing backup. So we are continuing to use the enzyme that helps degrade the dog hair, but it just seems that even with sweeping out the kennels before we're cleaning them, we're still getting a lot of clogs. And the bottom of the page are pictures from the Shelter Animals Count National Database. So we enter that, and that's just a nice visual of our animal count as it's continued to increase.
Any questions for? And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your assistant manager's name.
Jenna.
Jenna? All right, thank you. Any questions for the animal shelter?
I don't really have a question for the animal shelter, but just a question in general that some time ago, we talked about, we approved a CUP for a house down on like the 600 block of, I think, Chestnut or Elm. that they were going to use for
Oh,
emergency
that
event.
was-
Like all of a sudden it's up for sale
That was
again.
Dr. Jeff.
So,
Instead, he
what
bought the old restaurant
Yeah.
and he's converting that into his,
He bought the grill?
no, it's not, it's not the grill. It's the old steakhouse. What is it called?
Smokehouse.
Smokehouse.
Next to the motel.
The one that's connected to the
Yeah.
motel? Okay.
Yeah. So the
Wow.
animals can get
What's
back.
on
in.
TV Saturday?
But no, he's
Okay.
building his clinic out of that building instead.
Oh darn, I was hoping they would
Interesting.
open a restaurant.
I didn't
but
realize
guess
that he had a place
not.
for. You know, we did get a CUP, but that was gonna be a awful.
Yeah,
Clinic
okay,
area.
well, thanks
So
for
I'm
the
glad.
information.
You
Nice.
bet. Any other questions for the animal shelter? Okay, thank you. Liquor licensing, looks like we have one. Liquor license, Sports Hall of Fame, their banquet. Oh, this is not for the banquet. This is for the Leadville Trail 100 events. Donna?
Yeah, it's the half marathon. It'll be up on 6th Street.
Okay, great. Next up, we have the building department. You know, we've gotten some different things over the last few years from the building department. This is completely different, but it is interesting. So it's pretty good information.
What does DCC mean?
Depends on what I'm looking at.
Right there at the top.
Next to counties.
Oh, that's the name of the Colorado Code Consultants. So that's their inspector. So they pay them 75% and they keep 25%.
Got it.
Okay. Next up, we have sales tax comparisons. It continues to look very good. Donna?
What can I say?
Yeah, I know.
It's the same every month.
We're amazed every single month,
Amazed
aren't
every
we? Yeah.
month,
Well, as you can see, through a third of the year, we're $344,000 above budget. That's a good thing.
Could start putting it into,
Pardon?
start putting it into a jail and Justice Center fund.
Interesting, you should bring that up.
Mm.
Guess what's on your agenda?
I know.
Financials, Donna.
I'm gonna be real short. I'm still very deep involved in accommodations tax and I've done I know the figure on here is like 23,000, but I've done a quick analysis and I think it's gonna be somewhere up in the 35,000. Now I have been working, Tracy informed me that it should be a lot more, so that's something that I need to do a deeper dive into to get that figured out. And Tracy and I will hopefully get together at some point and try to figure out what we need to do to get this more streamlined, because it seemed like it was just maybe the word is just didn't work all that well. I'm not sure how to say that, but there needs to be a little bit more control of it somehow.
Okay,
So we
thank
need
you.
to figure that out. The other thing in there, the only thing that pops out to me as a concern, and I am gonna start doing some analysis on that, is the gas and oil for the street department. It seems like it's been a little high. I have looked into it a little bit. Nothing has stood out to where I can point anything out that anything's going on. But I am continuing to look at that and monitor it and see if we can't figure out what's going on in there. I hope we didn't lose a card somewhere and somebody's using it, so that's my concern.
You had talked about maybe just canceling those cards and reissuing cards, just to be sure.
Yes, and that might be the best thing to do at this point for a quick.
Any questions on financial? I will tell you, I've done my quick analysis of them. Every department is under in terms of employee pay. We have some highlights that Lori and I have discussed in terms of individual budget items that are a little concerning, but those are conversations we have with the department managers. But overall, the budget's in very good shape. Please.
Donna, is the general fund balance, I'm assuming that's before the 809 Spruce purchase. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we can count on that going down by around 800,000.
Yes.
Okay.
It's only
Thank you.
795.
Donna, can you help me just, I know the accommodations tax is sort of a super big thorn right now, but can you help me understand? Under the accommodations tax revenues, we have the city share of housing director, and then under expenditures, there's salary, which we haven't done anything for, but we've budgeted 70 grand for. Whose salary?
Well, that really is going to probably go to the county if we, I mean, it's got to be the county. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
The city and county set aside $105,000
Right.
to be all inclusive. And we didn't know what the actual number was going to be, but that was our set aside. The city was a third, the county was a third, and the accommodations tax fund was a third. So that's why you see a third of that from the accommodations tax, but the full
Okay.
2/3 is an expense.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That makes. I might have to have you say that again, but it made some sense.
I don't remember what it says. so. Any other questions on the financials? Okay, thank you. Time to pay the bills. Why does the fire department have 2 pages? 2 pages just to themselves. Any questions or concerns on the bills? You will see in the street department the 19,150, which was in the budget for the car lift for the street department.
There's an insurance, I swear.
I know, if we just stop paying insurance, we'd be flush. Okay, I would entertain a motion to pay the bills, please.
Moves to pay the bills.
5 seconds.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Donnie, you can pay these bills now.
Thank you.
At this time, we have the city administrator report.
Great. Well, after our last council meeting, we had our first all-staff meeting, and I want to thank Freight for donating the space and Lori and Donna for making sure we had breakfast for everyone. So this is a first opportunity that I've had to get all of the staff in one place, and I wanted to let you all know that I announced the employee retention incentive, and it was well received. And the initial feedback is that the employees are happy about that. So I am encouraged and I'm hopeful. I have not yet had any other conversations where we've had to talk people out of leaving. So I'm hoping that we hold steady for a while. I wanted to update on the question about Jimmy John. So I had requested that our city attorney look into our options available to us regarding the fact that, as you recall, Jimmy John's did not apply for a permit and had a parade anyway. So Christiana has provided me with a attorney-client privilege document sort of outlining our options. And Christiana's on vacation this week, so I'm going to take some time and look that over and then figure out what our next steps are. And then probably at the next city administrators report, let you know what we've decided that is probably the best course of action. So that is not forgotten, just so you all know. And I also wanted to talk about short-term rentals. So Sarah Day has been kind enough to continue helping us with that and provided some data about where we are currently. So the wait list for 2022 is actually oddly at 22 on the wait list. Regarding non-compliance, so as you recall, we potentially had 30 entities that we thought were non-compliant short-term rentals. And just because of the way the data is gathered, it is not necessarily a truly accurate number, but I'm sorry, 46 we had non-compliant. Of those, 30 have been resolved. And so we have 16 businesses or potential non-compliant entities that we are going to send a follow-up letter to. And then at that point, if there's not compliance, of course, we will be looking at the next step, which is to also involve our law enforcement department. Let's see. So the number of short-term rentals allowed for 2022 is 171. I think we talked about that last time with a 12% cap. And I do know that the Planning Commission met last week and did talk about that and have some thoughts about that, and will be coming to the council with some recommendations and potentially a joint meeting to talk about how to address that. One thing that will be helpful that I'm going to circulate is the Colorado Association of Ski Towns does a survey of similar jurisdictions and what they are doing regarding short-term rentals, and they just released their spreadsheet. So if we want to know what other communities are doing, we want to know what their caps look like, how they're handling short-term rentals. It's all we'll have really recent data for that. The report we had was from last year, and so now this year's report is out, so I can circulate that to everyone. The 809 Spruce Street house, just an update on that. The seller, as you may be aware, seller agreed to do the safety repairs that were indicated on the report, all the ones except the ones that the fire marshal indicated were not truly safety concerns, and then some maintenance repairs. I have some of the work is being done now. I've gotten an invoice that the seller has paid for some of the work, so it's going on right now. The closing is now June 6th. That is in part because we wanted the seller to have enough time to fix some of the items, and a 2-week extension would have been on Memorial Day, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have a hard time doing a closing on Memorial Day. So just out of convenience, we made it another week on June 6th. Our next council meeting, which is on June 7th, Christiana has requested that we do a 5 p.m. start so that we can have a work session before that. The state has a new family medical leave law called it's FAMLI family. And the council will need to be making a decision on whether or not to opt out of that program. And so what Christiana would like to do is do a work session for a meeting on the 7th and introduce that topic and present to you on it and talk to you all about it and let you digest all that, and then actually have the vote on what the city of Leadville would like to do on the meeting on the 21st. So if is that okay with everyone to start at 5 p.m. for a work session on the 7th? If not, we can look for another date for the work session.
Only if we're going to 11.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could go until midnight, but okay. So if 5 p.m. is okay with everybody?
There's a chance that I'll be late.
Okay. Well, we could talk about doing a work session on our work session Tuesday instead. Would you
The
prefer?
14th is a work session.
Well, oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. Well, we could add it to that existing work session.
How long does she think she needs?
Well, I mean, she requested we schedule it for 5 PM for a 6 PM council meeting start date. So I would say she was planning on an hour. I don't know that we need the full hour, but I do think it's important to have the topic introduced before you actually have to vote on it. I think having that all in the same meeting might be a bit much.
How does the agenda look for the 7th right now?
It's getting full.
Okay,
It's pretty full.
just curious.
Yeah. So, well, how about we request a 5:15 PM start time? Yeah, I don't want people to feel like, or
I'll
yeah.
do my best
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
I'm doing some focus group.
Well, I'm going to make a suggestion that we say 5:30 and tell her you have 25 minutes. I mean,
okay.
It seems to me, I've read through through part of that family plan, and it's not terribly complicated. And to opt in or opt out is what we're trying to decide.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't exclude anybody, but we also have the information for the council that we need to make a decision. Because we will need, in order to be on the correct timeline, we will need to make the decision on the meeting on the 21st. So that's fine. We will do a 5:30 start time. Great. And then the last item on the agenda, or my update, is probably the most important thing. I have heard that today is Max's birthday.
What?
No way.
Max.
Max Verdensi, happy birthday. And you share a birthday with yet another very important person who happens also to be in the room. Sarah Day, I heard it's also your. So I would say today is a VID, a very important day. If you tell me your birthday, or I secretly find out, now you know, I will announce it at a public meeting. So happy birthday, Max, and happy birthday, Sarah.
Thank God it's not on
Okay. Then that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Simonson? I would say real quick, when you talked to Christiane about Jimmy John's, I also sent a note with all the pertinent information to CDOT. I haven't heard anything back. I just haven't followed up, but I made myself a note. I'd like to follow up with Allen Club and see, are they going to act on that or not?
Right. That would be good information. Yes, I would like to.
All right.
If you find out, let me know. That would be great.
Right. Thank you. At this time, we have the Housing Director report. Jackie.
Hello, City Council and Mayor Labby and fellow citizens. Just wanted to be very brief and respect all of your time. We did have last week a BOCC work session and went through the guidelines, and it is up on the screen right now. And Lori, can you skip that one? We're gonna do that one last. So some of the things that we went through, definition of the essential workers. And it was decided that the following people will be considered the essential workers. We have government workers. Yeah. My glasses are in the education providers. Let me see if I can just get my cheat sheet here. Child care providers, and that was added. Emergency health care. And police, firefighters, grocery workers, snowplow drivers, and utility workers, including sanitation and water. So if you have any, we have the meeting on Thursday that we can dive further into this, and we have so much on your agenda today. I really hate to take up a ton of time, but I thought I was going to breeze through the discussion points, hit the highlights, and then if you have some things you want to talk about, we can certainly you can ask questions and we can prepare for that on Thursday, if that works for you.
This is so thorough. I mean, what a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of stuff. Or if you can go back to the one before. Draft of the essential workers. So we talked about the appreciation tax, and we were very lucky to have some of our industry experts who've been in this role for a long time. Jennifer Commode and Lori Best did a question and answer session with us. And they both they think the 2% appreciation has worked the best. So that was what we talked about with that. And then the next one resellers, they should go through the audit, so that we keep track of everything and make sure that the homes stay affordable, that the lottery is being used properly and so forth. The number of lottery picks. So we talked about working and living in Lake County, less than or up to a year, you get one chance. 1 year but less than 3 years, you get 2 chances. 3 years but less than 5 years, 5 chances. 5 years but less than or equal to 10 years, 6 chances. 10 years but less than 20 years, 7 chances. And greater than 20, 8 chances. Essential service employees will be granted 2 extra picks. And then the permitted capital improvements versus the non-permitted capital improvements. So the things that are allowed to add to your value of your property when you go to sell it, the modifications or improvements to accommodate people with disabilities as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Modifications or improvements to assist seniors to age in place. Improvements for health and safety protection devices, including radon. Improvements to finish intentionally included unfinished interior space, like a basement or something like that. Modifications or improvements to increase energy efficiency and or water conservation on a case-by-case basis. And this includes energy efficient appliances. The non-permitted improvements, jacuzzi, sauna, steam showers, and other similar items. Upgrades or the addition of decorative items, including lights, window coverings, flooring, paint, and other items that are similar. Upgrades of appliances that are not energy efficient. Plumbing and mechanical systems. Outdoor landscaping, including the addition of decks, porches, patios, gazebos, fencing, irrigation systems, and other similar fixtures, and the cost of tool rental equipment. We do have the draft guidelines on the county website. If you go to the county website and the department, there's a housing department now that is there. We are accepting public comments. And I have emailed all of you, council and the SEC, the comments that I have received thus far. And then the big one that we skipped, Lori, that's here at the top of the page. Most of the discussion that came to me via email was about the tiers. So the next one, yeah. And the feedback that I've gotten so far has been that we should prioritize people that live and work in the county. I appreciate Tim's time in developing the left-sided tiers. And he did attend the BOCC meeting, so that was great. And folks have been saying that 2% is too high. I just wanted to throw out an illustration. One of the concerns was that those people can actually afford housing and should not benefit from the affordable housing that we're going to be building. Somebody who makes $100,000 right now with interest rates, according to the lender that I just talked to last week, can afford $435,000 home. The April median home price was $757,000, up $157,000 from March. So a new teacher makes $43,000. The average teacher salary is $57,431. If we had a married couple, they're both teachers, they make $114,862. And the 200% AMI is $117,600. So I just want you to consider the folks that you're hoping to provide housing for and make sure that we're including them in this. And Fritz also mentioned in his email that his employees would also like the AMI not to be lowered because then his folks won't qualify either. I think that one of the concerns is that we want to make sure that we are offering the housing to folks that live and work here and not for folks that are trying to get out of the city, still making a high income and moving to Leadville, taking affordable housing from our locals. So that's my update. If anybody has any questions, or you want to give me some feedback on what you're thinking, and we'll try and prepare answers for you for Thursday. We'll go from there.
Can you just remind me when that meeting is?
It's 6 to 8. It's going to be at the senior center, and I'm going to have
In the-
Mountain Pies.
In the basement there?
I haven't checked out. I'm not sure.
Will there be a virtual option?
Yes, there will. And Amit's going to help with that, so you don't have to worry about me and my ineptitude.
Mayor, may I?
Please.
I think that I still stand by the 200% mark, that being way too high, and that there should be solutions for those people separately included, and remind everyone that this is a general guideline, not necessarily a set in stone that every single project has to follow. So if we need to change that for housing for hospital workers, and that's our priority in that moment, there are modifications that we can have to that tier system, but we should make this in accordance to our most generally marginalized community members, and that would definitely be under the 200% mark. Obviously, we need to work to get housing general lower costs and affordable for our community. And I've heard that other communities have had these higher end, more for those people who do make that 200, 250 range percent AMI projects that they work on. And that's the more medium homes that aren't necessarily the affordable units that we're kind of focusing on with this. So I'd say and encourage everyone that we really think about who this is for. And I think that 80 to 120% is really who we should be targeting with this. And in specific instances, we should definitely also target those higher numbers that are essential community workers, such as teachers and hospital workers.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thanks, Jackie. One question. When we have something like number of lottery picks and it says working/living, does the slash mean and or something different?
Yeah, I would say it means and.
Okay.
Working with and living.
May I request that future documentation specify that? Because I think just the / is vague and I wouldn't want to misinterpret it. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Jackie, thank you. I'll be looking forward to Thursday night,
Thank you for your time.
as long as it doesn't last till midnight.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Next up, we have the transit study presentation, Fair and Piers. Who is going to, oh, Kayla, you're gonna do it? Thank you. Okay.
And so while he's logging on, give me just 1 second. Rundown of the project. It's been a while since we've been together to talk through the project.
Commissioner Marcel, speak into the microphone to the best of your ability. so we can
Sure.
pick
Sorry
that
about that.
up. That's okay.
Okay, absolutely. So I'll just give you guys a quick update since it's been a while since we've been together to talk about this project in particular. The transit feasibility survey is the first step in implementing any kind of transit solutions locally for Lake County in particular. We have a couple regional options currently that work for us. So we have the Summit Stage and Eco-Transit that currently provide us with regional routes out to our neighboring counties. And this is the first step to solve our problems locally. In most surveys that we've taken as a community, like the Health and Happiness Survey, what's come up a lot is that transit provides a barrier to our constituents, in particular in outlying communities. And so we wanted to try to address that problem. So prior to COVID, we had a local coordinating council that got together to look at transportation, and what was recommended to us as the first step from CDOT was to go through this process of conducting a feasibility study to see if transportation is feasible within our community, if we have the ridership numbers or the data that shows that transportation is feasible on our own outside of just those regional routes. So the city and the county have partnered for this transit study. The county has taken on the responsibility of engaging with the contractors, but the city has partnered with us for the grant match, and the city's contribution is $5,000 for the grant match, which we'll collect on once the feasibility study is complete. And we're looking at a completion date with this study at the end of June, June 30th. So I don't know if Jason's on the Zoom call quite yet. I think he was planning on. I don't see him on there.
He was going to, he had prepared this PowerPoint presentation and was going to do a quick
update.
overview of it. So
I just can't see his name on there. He's not on there yet. Okay. So I'll just give you some highlights of the presentation. It's in your packet. We presented this at the State of the Community as well, and it's available on our website, on the county's website. Currently on the county's website, we also have a survey for transportation that we would like for everyone to take if they have the opportunity. We've had really great results with that survey and have had about 30% Latinx participation in the survey results so far, which has been really promising for us to make sure that we're incorporating all of our community in transit. So, as you can see in, sorry, Lori, I can. No, it's okay. My computer's gonna die, but I don't have my glasses, so I'm sorry. So there were three alternatives that we determined from the preliminary data, which are the deviated fixed route, the on-demand route, and then a fixed route and micro transit. Based on the feedback that we have received from the State of the Community and other stakeholders, it looks like we have built our survey around alternative number one, which is a deviated fixed route. So we would have essentially one vehicle or two vehicles, and then have a route that goes in from the end of town through town to those high traffic areas, CMC, Safeway. Thanks, Christian. So our survey is really around gathering data with this deviated fixed route. Jason's on his way. Sorry, he was expecting 7:40. Are you here, Jason?
Jason. There is.
Yeah. Hey, we're just talking about the deviated fixed route, Jason.
Okay, great.
And you can hop in whenever you would like to, or if you have additional information, but I'm just going through the slides on the PowerPoint that we've built our survey really around this deviated fixed route to determine ridership and feasibility. So the deviated fixed route has a fixed schedule, but also has the opportunity to deviate 3/4 of a mile from the route. It's for the general public. We would have ADA accessibility on the bus. Jason, do you have anything to add with that?
No, I think, well, yes. The only thing I would add is that this option allows you to serve fixed stops with established schedule time points, we call them, as well as the off route points within that 3/4 of a mile buffer area around the route. So it allows one bus to provide flexible service. So it's cost efficient, and the trade-off is that travel time could be a little bit longer than if you just had a fixed route.
Yeah, and some of the questions that we asked as the Board of County Commissioners about the deviated fixed route was the opportunity to expand the 3/4 of a mile. And it's our understanding, and Jason, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we can expand that deviation, but it has to be within at least that 3/4 of a mile. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep, absolutely. Yep, it can be bigger than that, but the 3/4 of a mile is dictated by the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yep. So this felt like a pretty confident, we had a pretty confident path forward with this deviated fixed route, again, based on some community feedback and on our stakeholder interviews and what we had just heard as the Board of County Commissioners. So, but just to give you kind of an idea of what we've tackled through the feasibility study, then we'll go into alternative number 2, which is an on-demand microtransit zone. Jason, I don't know if you can just talk us through this a little bit.
Sure. In terms of alternative 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could advance to the next slide. So alternative 2.
You're good, Lori. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Is what we call microtransit. So this is smaller vehicles that are enabled by technology to provide trips in real time within certain parameters. So trips are fulfilled typically in 15 to 30 minutes. And as much as possible, trips are combined. So it provides some convenience and flexibility. And you serve it within a zone, so you can serve any 2 points within a zone or connect any 2 points in a zone. So it provides a lot of flexibility. It allows you to not have to really determine what a route might need to be. It gives flexibility to provide any types of trips within a zone. And if you kind of advance to the next one, you'll see the draft zone that we showed. And initial feedback we received on this one was that it's interesting, might work well for younger people who are well connected, but may have some equity concerns for those folks that may not be comfortable with an app, may not have access to smartphone technology. You always have the option to call in with this type of option. So for those who don't have smartphones, they could call in and make a request. But that could be seen as, again, kind of an equity barrier if someone who is, would rather just show up at a stop at a specific time, as opposed to having to call in, request the trip, and have the trip fulfilled over the phone. Still, possibly some barriers there associated with that. But could be operated with 1 or 2 vehicles. To start, one vehicle would be sufficient, we think. But given the fact that some of the areas that we believe would be well used that are outside Leadville city limits, notably the 3 manufactured home communities, that might stretch the service a little bit, and that it might be better to have a route instead. So that was kind of the feedback we heard. But an intriguing option and an option that other communities are looking at. Typically in other communities, we're seeing this option in conjunction with fixed route, and that's where we led kind of the next option led us to a hybrid with a route and a microtransit zone. But I'll stop there and just make sure there's not any questions or anything you wanted to add, Kayla, about that alternative 2.
No, I don't think so. I think really a lot of the feedback that we had received from some stakeholder groups and individuals about this, like Jason said, is that it may create some equity issues, and also may feel uncomfortable to people that are not connected with rideshare services like Lyft or Uber, where you're just picked up with a car that has a sticker on it that says, Lyft or Uber, but that it might be more more welcoming and more utilized if it's a designated transit vehicle and people are expecting it at a certain time. So so there was just some concern around that alternative number 2. But if you'd like to go into alternative number 3.
Sure. So alternative number 3, as I mentioned, combines a fixed route with a microtransit zone and has, a defined route, scheduled times, specific stops, and doesn't have the deviated, at least for the route portion, does not have the deviation associated with alternative 1. The vehicle size would likely start with a smaller shuttle bus kind of that you see at the bottom there, but may grow to need a larger bus over time, probably over a longer period of time. But similar to kind of what Summit Stage operates or Eco Transit operates in terms of, that's a commuter route, but a fixed route with times. And then the microtransit zone would be a little bit smaller and would connect in with the fixed route to serve the areas of town that may be a little harder to access and would involve a longer walk if you only had the route. So you kind of see that zone around the core of the route. The route would stretch both to the north and to the south, probably alternately, so that you could run the core route at a higher level of frequency, headways being frequency or how often the bus comes at a given stop in a given direction. So that, that this option costs more, it involves more vehicles, and is probably, as we have worked through public feedback, probably more than what is needed for an initial service.
Yeah. So I think our next steps are, and you're welcome to look through this presentation and send questions to us or ask questions that we can answer tonight as well. But our next step is to take the survey results once the survey closes and then incorporate that into our feasibility study and then move into an implementation phase. After that, if it's determined that transportation is feasible for us here in Lake County. And it looks as though it is a feasible option for us. Jason and Sydney will be able to give us some costs of what it will take to implement a transportation system and an annual operating and administrative cost to the county. And we would hopefully come to the city to ask for some participation. But we are meeting with CDOT tomorrow. There's a lot of federal transit money available to us from the American Rescue Plan Fund. So we're meeting with them tomorrow to determine what our eligibility is for any kind of implementation funding. So we'll hopefully have some more answers tomorrow about that.
Would that implementation funding be a 5310 grant? Is that what you have in mind?
So the implementation funding would be a 5310 for capital and then a 5311 for operating and admin.
Okay.
And the county currently holds a 5311 grant with the Summit Stage for the operating and admin cost, and we contract that service through Summit County government.
I know when we were meeting about 3 years ago, we had a lot of enthusiastic people at the table. And CDOT basically said, we want to help you get this done. So I'm hoping they still feel that way.
Yeah, I think so. Jason and Sydney have been great at connecting with those folks at CDOT. And it sounds like there's definitely money available and definitely some will to continue to move this project forward. The CDOT representatives that we had with us prior to COVID no longer are with the organization. So it's a little, we're treading the waters there a little bit, but we are hopeful for a positive outcome with that conversation tomorrow.
That's great. I know in those conversations, a lot of people at the table really were suggesting what we show as alternative number 2. They felt like that was a good way to start. But I think the deviated fixed route serves our community much better than that. So
yeah. And so hopefully we'll be able to get something off the ground soon. But the survey is still available. It's on the county's website on the homepage. So if you haven't taken it, we would really appreciate any feedback that you could give us. We're hoping to leave it open for the next day or so and then close that to finish the data collection period. The survey is available in English and in Spanish. So we've gotten responses in both formats, which has been really great. So please feel free to share that widely. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to connect with us. And Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us tonight. And council, if you have any questions for Jason, you're free to ask.
I do have one question.
Sure.
And then a comment. I know that deviated fixed route is kind of an out and back. And if you use County Road 9, it would be a loop. And then it would also connect a couple of community county facilities such as the golf course, which is open to Nordic skiing in this winter and golf in the summer. And then at the junction of 99 and 9 is another place where there's a portal for mountain biking or hiking right there at the Turquoise Lake. I'm curious if there's been any part of that deviated fixed route that would, instead of going back and forth through town, I would actually think it would be faster to make it a loop and less mileage to go from, either end. It would actually connect the two. So just a question for you, Jason, if that was taken into consideration with the deviated fixed route to connect the two ends down the County Road 9 and add a couple stops in between. And then second of all, if some of those regional alternatives you have listed, just let you know, if you do go on National Forest System land, it will require a special use permit. And if that is something that you're really truly looking into, I would say at a minimum, it would take at least 2 years from your proposal to become fruition. If you were going to include an actual Turquoise Lake Trail, Ski Cooper, or even the visitor center at Twin Lakes.
Okay.
Because that's National Forest System as well. So,
Thanks.
but just asking about the loop over the back and forth.
Sure. Thanks, Max. I really appreciate that. And I actually didn't think about the special use permit at the visitor center at Twin Lakes or anything like that yet at this phase. Jason, I'll just quickly answer and then I'll let you tag in. Really what we had looked at in the feasibility stage is just to determine if transportation is something that we could implement and make sustainable and grow ridership with in Lake County. And so it's looking like that is a possibility for us. And so once we go into that implementation phase, the board had similar questions about expanding the deviation from the fixed route. So those would definitely be things that we would take into consideration. And Jason, I don't know, you can answer the logistics on how that works through the implementation phase.
Yeah, we heard a bit about some of those needs, the recreation needs, both more locally, such as the golf course, both summer and winter, but also, yeah, regionally as well. And we think, and the survey kind of has reinforced this, that the major origin and destination points are all along the route we've defined here. And in planning fixed route transit, you want to have a route that goes along a given route in both directions, so that you don't have to kind of ride the loop all the way around to get what is likely a short trip. So kind of think about a circle with A to B close together on this side. Getting A to B is great, but getting B to A, you got to go all the way around the circle to get back to point A if it's a one directional loop. If it was a bi-directional loop, then all of a sudden you've doubled your cost because you have to add 2 vehicles in. So having a linear route that can be operated in both directions, by a single bus with a minimum of once an hour is kind of, is what we were shooting for. And that way, okay, if I want to go generally south, the bus is going to be here at 10 after. If I want to go generally, towards the north, it's going to be at 40 after, and it's just the stop across the street, as opposed to, the time that it takes to run a single one-way loop. I think some of those destinations could be served as kind of on-demand points or could be included in the deviated zone. And that might be something in kind of a phase 2. But we did have in the survey that's online right now that Kayla mentioned, all of the possible destinations, and the top destinations are all along the route as we have it defined in alternative 1.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Yes, Cisco?
That's one thing, thank you. Have you considered, like what options would best include babies and small children? Like, I'm not sure if the small cars versus the bus. Also, CDL drivers are kind of in short supply these days, so just put out there. I don't know when this comes to fruition. I don't know if that'll still be a factor, but
It's not right now.
it's not.
They don't have to be CDL qualified.
Yeah, I think it would depend on the size of the bus that we were
15
operating.
passengers.
Yeah, so anything like the bus at the senior center, for example, does not require a CDL driver.
Okay.
But those are questions that we would explore through the implementation phase.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So, maybe looking at if it's most beneficial for us to reach out to Eco Transit or Summit Stage to see if there's an opportunity for contracting with some of the admin and some of the overhead, if that would limit the cost for us a little bit, or what that looks like. But those are all questions that we'll vet and go through with the implementation planning for phase 1, and then go from there.
Any other questions for either Jason or Kayla? Thank you. You've taken us a long ways.
Thanks, I appreciate it. If there's anything that comes up, don't hesitate to connect with me. Our survey is out on the website for a few more days, so if you can share that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jason. Next up, we have Community Justice Center funding discussion.
Just congratulate ourselves. We're sticking so well.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
I know. Doing really well.
Thank you, Council, Mayor. So yeah, thanks for including the Justice Center on your agenda. Again, I have 3 additional items to, information to bring to you. Maybe just quickly to recap so the question on the table is the city's participation in the Justice Center. As we outlined your last meeting, the sort of easy part of that is to continue participating in the planning, the working with the architect and design team. The much harder part is the financial contribution of $5 million and the need to negotiate an IGA around that financial contribution and participation in the project. And again, to recall that IGA needs to be done before the county goes into the financing and underwriting of the certificate of participation, which the county will do. So the items I have in the one item made it into the packet in time. That is a 1-pager additional background on where that $5 million number came from. I think that's on page 108 of the package. We can take questions on that if we want to. The second and the second and third items we just didn't have from the design team and the construction company in time to get in the packet, but I'll talk about it with 2 slides that we have here. So the second item is some more information on the timing of when the city council decision would be good to have. We do not need a vote tonight. And then the third is just some preliminary ideas on what would need to be included or what might be included in the IGA. Just because, again, that's really the crux of what would be being committed to. So it's helpful to think about what is involved in that decision. So let me hop in. I handed out hard copies for you, and it's up on the slides. So first, some additional information from the design and construction team on timing. In general, sooner is better than later. For 2 reasons. Just giving more clarity to the design team. The sooner you can, we all can provide that, the sooner they can narrow down the work they have to do on different options. There will be lots and lots of options, they get iterated through the final construction documents, but the sooner they can eliminate any, the less redundant work has to be done. The second is also the sooner we can get a decision, the more time we have to negotiate the IGA. So, the IGA has to be done by a certain time. So the later we start, the faster that work is going to have to get completed. And that's, as we'll get into on the next slide, that's a non-trivial negotiation. So some more details. So this is in discussion with the design and construction team, which we had not really had kickoff meetings with yet when we met 2 weeks ago here at council. So I think the design advisory group is really the key stakeholder and user group input to the design team. Their meeting is on June 7th, and the RJA and Ventures Architects will provide drawings at that point. This is still schematic design. I mean, it's pretty high level on what the user spaces look like, but it's enough for the construction company to begin pricing out options. And at that point, I mean, the current plan would be that there would be an option with and without the city police and associated space. At this high level, that's still, the architects feel very comfortable. That's not really that big an additional burden. Again, as I said, there's lots of options, throughout all spaces, in this building where the site, and the site plan. At that point on June 7th, the general contractor, which is the entity responsible for developing detailed pricing, will begin to price out the schematic design with the, if we need to, still with those two options. Around June 29th, which sounds like a long way off, but really isn't, they really need to move into the next level of detail, go beyond schematic into what's called the design drawing process. And a week later, July 6th, there'll be really July 6th is the drop dead date where the construction company has to start pricing out actual spec pieces of equipment, like what steel beam, how big is the heating unit, how much asphalt exactly are you pouring for the parking spaces. So sorry, that's a lot of rambling, but up here, I mean, those are sort of 2 weeks, sort of 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I mean, really 6 weeks is when I say drop dead. Beyond 6 weeks, you really start risking either delaying the ability to get to pricing and going into construction. And again, recall, like some significant equipment like generators are 12 to 14 months out. So July 6th is when the construction company would start to actually order equipment with that long lead time, so that it's in place for construction. So things really risk starting getting delayed by July 6th. And also additional design costs. If you're getting into actual construction documents and then you have to go back and change what you're designing, you really go back several squares in this process. You have to come back. So again, I hope that's helpful for City Council to understand the sooner the better time frame. And again, sort of 2 weeks great, 6 weeks okay, longer than 6 weeks really has implications for cost. Then just quickly, the other item, just on possible elements of what would be in the intergovernmental agreement. That, as I said, that's really a key part of the ask, is to commit to negotiating that. So it's good to know what would need to be in that. So one piece of good news is we are by no means the first community to have city and county law enforcement in the same building. So we have IGAs that we've been reading that helped develop this list of terms. So we're not developing this from scratch. It's been done before. But, just to throw out there, one thing I did not put on here that's really important is the payment and the payment terms. But in addition to the payment, and there are a couple things to consider that have real cost and sort of risk assumption implications. First is like, is there a cost cap on that 5 million? What if prices escalate? What if something is discovered that makes the building more expensive? Who is bearing the risk of that cost escalation? Can the county offer a fixed cap on that cost? And then sort of related to that is, as different bits and pieces of the building come into focus and real pricing arrives, what is the city's seat at the table in decision-making about what things drop off when costs have to get cut? Do we have less fancy desks, to make it trivial, but more important stuff too. So, there'll be some hard decisions on cost cutting, most likely in this cost environment. And the IGA, I think we need to spell out what the city's, seat at the table is for that decision making. And then also like a host of routine design decisions. Again, there'll be thousands of decisions on speccing different bits and pieces of equipment and material in this building. Again, we need to specify what seat at what table the city has with that. Another one that has sort of, as we've thought more about this, is as the county goes into the certificate of participation financing, we do not yet know what our interest rate will be, other terms of that COP. As we learn those, do those flow through back into terms of the city payment obligation of the IGA? Or do we lock some of those in and the county is bearing sort of the risk, if you will, of those changes once we actually get through underwriting? Operating cost calculations, we had thrown out a number that was extremely back of the envelope from architects, but we probably want to specify how we're going to calculate, operating costs that would be, part of the agreement. Is it a fixed percentage of the whole building? Just some details to figure out. Hate to raise this, but default and termination provisions. Again, not to be flippant, but would we actually evict the city police department in the event of non-payment? And then also, a common term is sort of like earnest money on going under contract on a house. If we start negotiating an IGA and just can't reach terms, that would have cost implications for the county. Is there a withdrawal fee as part of the IGA? So again, that's just a scary amount of things, but just to say the IGA is as I said, a non-trivial document to negotiate. So those are 3 elements we've been working on to bring to you, what the IGA involves, some additional information on timing, and then the background information that was requested on where that 5 million number came from. And again, we have the material from the last presentation in the packet too. So
I have some questions for you. The first is a statement. I love the idea of combining space. So that's where I start from. That's where I want to get to. I do have to, from a city council standpoint, look at this and say, if we had $2.85 million, what could we do? What kind of police building could we build with that amount of money, as opposed to being in this building? And I'm just, I think it bears at least some thought about, what is it exactly we're doing? I can tell you, I want to do it, but the other thing is there's some suppositions here. You show operating revenue of 5.75. I understand where you got that number, but it's not correct. It's actually 4.1 million, just so we know. And the city current general fund balance, well, that's not exactly correct. It's getting ready to go down by $800,000 in about 3 weeks. So just in terms of looking at these numbers, I do have a question. Grossing factor. I don't understand this. I'd like an explanation. And then I also say, if $788,000 is 10.38% of grossing factor, that seems like an extraordinarily high number.
Yeah. So I can explain what grossing factor is. For that
Please.
same question. as I looked at this again.
Okay.
So grossing factors literally, so there's the previous line items are interior space, like the usable footprint of city police facilities. Grossing factor is the fact that when you add that space, you have to also add interior and exterior walls and foundation under them. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I do get that.
Yeah.
The thing-
Mayor, I did send out an article that you wouldn't allow to be included in the packet that explained what grossing factor was.
Well, actually, I was looking at that article. I didn't read it thoroughly, but I was looking at the article about architectural design and how you should look at those things in terms of the efficiency of the architectural design. But here's,
Can I just mention
oh,
that
please.
the grossing factor being used here is 20%, and that is at the low end of what this professor who wrote the article recommended.
To not feel.
Okay, got it. Now, here's the problem I'm having. You have a list of costs here. The city's cost alone on grossing factor is $788,000 at 10.38% of total facility. That number doesn't work.
1.73% is the grossing factor.
Okay.
Not
Then
that-
how is $788,000 1.73%?
It's 20% of the total interior square footage, which is 4,000 something, Katie. It's 5450 minus the parking square footage. And then you take 20% of that, and that's your grossing factor, which comes out to 973. You're welcome.
I have to admit, I'm confused because 1.73%, which is the factor that's put in here of 20%, let's say.
That's not the grossing factor.
But it can't be $788,000.
I don't think the cost and the percentage is connected to the percentage of the overall facility. Is that
Correct.
fair enough? There's not a calculation that you're doing along that row that leads you to.
That's where I'm
Right.
struggling with that row. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we get the 788,000, Mayor, is taking that 1.73%, which is the percentage of the overall facility, multiplied by the total project cost, assumed total project cost of $45.5 million. That's how we get to 788,000. So that's what
Okay.
you're paying for all the walls and related grossing up of the space beyond just the interior square footage of the spaces that are listed there.
I'm gonna dust off my calculator when I get a chance and go through this.
Well, and we can absolutely like walk through these, and this spreadsheet has tabs behind it that we didn't add everything into, so. And also, I mean, to come back to sort of some of the like IGA terms, I mean, this is based on like pre-initial scoping schematic design, so, I think that's one thing to consider is like these numbers will likely change, at least somewhat through design, and do we, adjust, like, do we negotiate the payment up front, or do we sort of like wait until pricing comes through and have that flow through? There are pros and cons to both of those.
Mayor,
Please.
I would like to know what we can do. I mean, first of all, the total project cost for this entire community justice center is $45 million. I mean, personally speaking, if the city and the police department can be part of it for what, it's 10%. That's a good deal. And it would be a great opportunity to be partners with the county and to be able to put all of our those types of responders, our law enforcement in the same building. And something that I know that the chief is a firm advocate of, at least he has been in the past. Maybe he's changed his mind since then, but I don't think so. But I guess my question is that Commissioner Fiedler's first bit of this is saying, hey, we have some drop dead dates here to consider. And that it's July 6th is the drop dead date. It's not too many, it's not that long. So what, as a council, when can we actually put this on our agenda for resolution to come up with a decision to say, yes, we'd like to go in or not into an IGA with the county for our community justice center, because I think that's where we have to go. And I know everybody knows that too, but like, it means like, we gotta put it on the agenda.
Well, it depends on how tight you want to make it. So there is a council meeting on July 5th. I don't think that would really be
Do you mean
a
June-
good idea.
June
Your
5th?
meeting prior to that, your regular council meeting is June 21st. That agenda doesn't look overwhelmingly long right now. So it may be, I think, my advice would be to put it on the June 21st agenda in the event that there is something that you need to think about or some sort of issue that comes up that leaves you one more meeting before the drop dead date.
But
So
I think the drop dead, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but does the drop dead date, like, do we have to have the IGA hammered out by then? Is that correct?
No, the IGA needs to be done probably like September.
Okay, okay.
We're,
Because I was like, oh my God.
there's
It's a
some
lot to fit in.
choices about when to start underwriting. The sooner you can underwrite, the more you can the sooner you can lock in prices and start ordering stuff. But you have to be ready. The longer you wait, the more you can nail down your costs exactly and underwrite for only what you need.
Right.
So
would our
September, October-ish would enable us to be ready for construction in the 23 construction season.
But-
But I think we need the IGA to show that revenue stream from the city or not to underwrite.
But the resolution, is it going to be as simple as, yes, we're moving forward with this, or do we have to have the numbers hammered out for the resolution?
well, I think we would need to have some commitment, I think, at that point to the county. And so I think we may not have exact numbers at that point, but I think you probably, I don't know if you can do a resolution for an intent to sign an IGA, but I think it would be some resolution indicating that, the city intends to be a part of this project. And I think it's the resolution, and the important part about this is, and I appreciate Councilmember Forgensi bringing this up, is it is going to be the commitment. And so knowing that the IGA will be coming, it is the commitment to at least their design team so that they can continue forward, knowing that the city will be a part of it, and that we can certainly work on the IGA and get it to, a draft at that point. And then if we can get it to a point where, the council it's in a form to be approved by the 21st, we could certainly do that. But I think the main thing is that it would be the commitment so the county knows that we are in or not in at that point.
Yeah, I think it's really the intent to negotiate that IGA, knowing what the potential price tag is. I don't think you need to say, we don't have to have, none of the terms listed in that IGA slide need to be, actually committed to just the commitment to negotiate the IGA.
Yeah. I would say this, we have a lot of conversation that needs to take place. I would say, I'd be willing to say tonight,
Yeah.
I want in.
Right.
However, I'd sure like to have a plan.
Well,
At least an outline of a plan of how we're going to make that happen. Yes,
So-
Tracy.
I have a more basic question. You implied that furnishings are included when you said nicer desks or are furnishings
Yep.
included in that?
We've been as careful as we can for this 45 million to be the all-in cost. I mean, this is the design firm's fee, the construction company's fee, their overhead on their subs, contingency, and all furniture, fixtures, equipment.
And how are you?
That is to commissioning. We walk in the door and the building is running.
How are we taking into account the cost of the land and the mitigation of the soil and stuff like that?
Well, the land we purchased for 100,000. Okay, Katie, yes. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, and what you were about to say is right, which first of all, we purchased the property, the county purchased the property at a steep discount, which helps with the overall cost. We did have our environmental consulting firm, Landmark, prepare multiple remediation options and price those out. And so those have been factored into this estimate at this time. Remediation largely involves infill of soil and capping of existing contamination.
So basically we're looking at quick calculation, $810 a square foot. So that takes into account all that.
It does. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm done.
I just wanted to note that that is the average cost, but the public safety facilities are more expensive. And that's just, and I don't have all the explanation for why that is. It's just been told to us by our design team multiple times that the courthouse portion will be considerably less expensive to build than the public safety and detention space.
Will the building be sprinklered?
I do not know for sure. I assume a building of this size would be. I honestly don't know the answer.
I'm pretty sure the fire department is going to make it sprinkler. What do you think?
I just saw off the top of my head.
Yeah.
The kind of facility that it is.
Yeah, 56,000.
Yes.
I want to throw in my 2 cents. Because I share, well, let me just start over. I have been here long enough to have been through multiple police chiefs, and every single one of them has complained about how completely insufficient our police department is in terms of infrastructure. The space is awful. And even to the point where Chief Bertolos was looking at, can we move into the old school admin building? And that building is also awful, but it is better than the police department building we have right now. My feeling is this, if we don't move forward on this, we are going to be left behind and we'll have no feasible solutions. We've looked for solutions before. Refurbishing our swimming pool has a low end of $2 million price tag. A $5 million home, yeah, I know, I said low end, is super fancy, but our police department needs, like whatever technology law enforcement uses, that is so much more than just the average, fancy building. This, like Max said, is a screaming deal. It hurts, but we are almost $300,000 ahead on what we've collected compared to our budget this year. We're spending a lot of money on this house, but we are multiple times over what's a recommended reserve to have for a few months of city function as suggested for statutory cities. We can make this work. And I think we should just say yes. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry to leave you out of this. You're in my heart, but it is absolutely true.
I love that point of comparison. The other thing we talked about is it might seem painful in year 1, but year 20, we won't have the same pain threshold. And this is a 50-year proposition in terms of the functionality of it. So to your point of looking into the future, yeah.
If I could, I've been trying to be super careful not to tell you how to look at your own budget, but maybe from the county's perspective, we're obviously going to cover this out of operating revenue and not additional bond revenue. But it is scary to look 20 to 25 years out and revenue looks nice the last 2 years,
Mhm.
but you don't know. And one thing we talked about, and we haven't, enshrined this anywhere, but is making sure that we have at least 2 to 3 years of lease payments and our financing payments in the general fund, or maybe, moved to a new, a new fund we'd create, just it wouldn't be like legally locked away. But just to make sure that if we really have some terrible years, that, future BOCCs would have, that 2 to 3 year cushion, if budgets were extremely
And
tight.
then we
Just
should,
to throw
we
that
should
out
do
as
the
like,
exact same
'cause
thing.
it's-
I think it's a
you know,
great
it-
idea.
It's
Yeah.
a startling commitment.
Yep.
To make, to cover out of operating revenue. And maybe also add, I mean, my understanding is that the IGA does not have to specify how you are funding this, it just needs to make the commitment, which, I mean, should be thought through carefully. Again,
So you really don't care where we get the money as long as we get. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It's not, it will not be my problem.
Mayor?
It would be a problem if that, I mean, it's a problem to consider.
Max, please.
Yeah.
That's all
I
right.
apologize. I know that the chief would like to speak. I know that he was coming up to his microphone unless you, yeah.
If anybody would like a tour of the basement and the facilities, I'll be happy to escort you on that tour.
That where you keep the
Done it
prisoners?
once, never want to do it again.
Are there any other questions for Commissioner Fiedler and the county? I cannot tell you how impressed I am with how far out of the limb you guys have gone with this thing. I mean that sincerely. This is such a huge commitment to our community. I know that if we overanalyze this, we'll go crazy. But if we take the Dana Green approach and just say, you know what, damn it, we're just gonna do this.
Well, and thank you. I think we've really tried to not hide any costs for ourselves, pretend that this is gonna be less than this. So we've really tried to do all the due diligence, like on the mediation question, hire a good team to build this, that's experienced working up here. Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Let's get it on the
Let's get it
agenda.
So that'll be on the agenda for which, the second meeting in June, is that correct?
Correct. If
Okay.
that's,
Thank you.
seems like that's the consensus.
Is that the 24th meeting?
21st.
21st.
Is there anything that's going to be added to our understanding by that time that is different from what we understand now?
It'll be more fleshed out. I think at that point we'll be at the 50%, am I right, Jeff, on the schematics design phase?
Yeah.
25% for the actual drawing. So we'll have a general loose idea of what that'll look like, if I'm not mistaken, right?
We should have another iteration that incorporates a lot of the, user and stakeholder groups, and at least one meeting of the design advisory group. I think one issue is at that point, like, we're at the stage where everyone's Christmas wish list
Yeah.
is being added. And then pricing will come in, and we will have the painful part of the project. So yes, but I think it'll be the Christmas wish list schematic design to some extent.
Probably.
But in terms of requested next steps, decide whether or not to participate in the project at this meeting.
So we're just deciding if we're willing to continue forward with these. Yeah.
Do we really need to see more detailed plans is that going to be a deal breaker for us? Like, oh, yeah.
Well,
Check
I
out
would say
those
the
options.
detailed plans, I would like, it doesn't have to be detailed. I just want to know as a group, how we think we go forward with funding this. And that's all. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. I'm not suggesting we have to do some in-depth analysis, but I'd like us to have that conversation on the 21st and as part of the proposition.
I would agree that I think we should talk a little bit more about it. I'm all in favor. I'm literally donating a lot of my time to the project itself. So definitely not against it by any means, but I think we should talk a little bit about it. And I think that we'll have a very comfortable decision by the 21st and a good idea of what we're doing in terms of payments as well.
Thank you.
I'm
Commissioner
not going to
Pete?
be here for the 21st meeting, as I've previously announced, so I just want to throw in my favorable opinion now.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is now, and incidentally, it is not 7:42.
Really here, I thought we were like doing
No,
so
no,
good
no,
at
you're-
following our.
Well, if you're
That
looking
was
at that
the
clock, you're
error.
on time.
I was like, oh, man.
We
have
are
so
going to
much time.
take about a 10-minute break and then
Just
come
gotta get
back
rid of
and
that Clock, it threw me.
finish up.
I'm really
you.
sad.
Okay, thank you.
My brother's a cop out in Oregon, and during one of the times we had an open chief thing, there was an ad in the paper, and I took a picture and I sent it to him, and I was like, hey, you should come to Leadville. And he's like, are you kidding?
Thanks, Tim.
For that much? No way. Like our beginning cops don't even make that level. And he's in rural Oregon. I don't know.
We're kind of waiting for Roy to come back, but actually we have, our next agenda item is going to be 9D. We moved it up. This is for the motorcade for Lake County High School graduation. I will give you a quick update. The banners are being worked on right now.
Good, I was gonna ask about.
You know, and there were some delays. I won't get into the details, but I talked to Kevin today. He's working on them as we speak. So as soon as I get them, we'll have them up. And we'll probably have them up probably, I'm gonna guess 3 weeks before graduation, which will be nice.
Is that cost coming out of contingency?
I don't remember. Honestly, you know, I don't remember if we talked about it, huh?
Yeah. Last time it wasn't, but I
It
know.
was
he
like
also giving us
$1,700 last year.
He was giving us a deal.
I just didn't remember if we had discussed that, you know, as city council or not. Anyway, right now we have in front of us a request for the motorcade. Aaron, would you like to talk to us about it and give us some insights into what you're doing this year versus what you've done in the last 2 years?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for giving me some time tonight, and also for your support of our seniors. They very much have looked forward to and continue to look forward to some of the new traditions that we have started post-pandemic. And the banners being one of them for sure, and then also the motorcade. And so really we'd like to do what we've done the last 2 years. We did change the route a bit last year. And I think we want to stick with the route we used last year. But we're hoping to do it on June 3rd. That's Friday at 5 p.m. And you know, take that route and get people out on their sidewalks and the street curbs and hoot and holler and cheer on our seniors for making it to the finish line. So yeah, if we can go forward with that plan, that'd be awesome.
Staff, do you have anything to share with us?
No, staff has just wanted to put out that we wanted to request a 3-year permit because it's just something that they want to incorporate every year, so.
So Aaron, you intend to continue this tradition of the last 2 years. This will be the 3rd year. You'd like to keep this going, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, the seniors have really appreciated it. They really look forward to it. And I think it's another way to highlight and celebrate academic success and highlight our high school, so and our seniors. And so I think if we can keep it going, that would definitely be my intention.
I do want to add that I did put in last year's map
Okay.
because it was a lot clearer to read than the current.
Yeah,
one. So
I
it's
saw
the
it.
same.
I agree. It was
It was
easy
the
to
same
read.
route, so.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Any questions for Aaron or staff?
Just one question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The top says Friday, June 6th, but it's Friday, June 3rd, right?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for catching that. The June 3rd. at 5 PM.
I have to say, 2 years ago, we did this as part of COVID because we weren't having a downtown parade, and it was a blast. It was, and so many people came out of their houses, you know, all over the city. And so it was so much more fun to share with so much more of the community than just a parade down Harrison Avenue for 3 minutes. So it was cool.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, it's been cool to see our community rally behind our seniors in that way. Folks that might not necessarily come to the graduation ceremony, right? But like to step out and bring their younger children out to say, hey, look, one day this will be you, you know, and just get that that momentum going about completing a high school career and getting a diploma.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Then I would entertain a motion, please.
Councilmember Fujensi moves to approve the temporary use permit for Lake County School District to host the LCHS graduation motorcade on Friday, June 3rd, 2022 from 5 PM to 5:30 PM. Site approval being good for 3 years or through 2024.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Tharp,
Yes.
Councilmember Fujensi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Luna Leo,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yeah.
Mayor Lobby.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time.
And now we have 9A, which is the Trail 100 Run and Mountain Bike Camps. Taylor, you're up.
9C first.
I'm sorry, what?
Should we talk about 9C first?
Is that the discussion one?
No, 9C is just a conversation about the Trail 100 runs and mountain bike.
Okay, got it.
So nothing is changing with the camps. Are we done? No. I'm just-
See you later.
This is all my first time doing this, so I'm not quite sure how it all goes, but for the camps, what I can tell you, and what I want to just briefly talk about everything. I sent out, and Lori, imagine I got it to you today or yesterday? Yesterday. And I don't think you guys will have it in your inbox yet, but I sent out a document on kind of what I have taken away from a lot of conversation around community impact and how we need to be thinking about how the races are showing up in town around traffic congestion, all these types of pieces. And so this is a large overview. So the camps are relatively painless, right? It's 100 people essentially for both of them. They're 2 weekends, June 24 to 26 in July, June 30 to July 3rd. It really doesn't interfere too much with any services or require much from the city in that regard. We get into Silver Rush, we get into Marathon, we get into the hundreds, and of course we feel that impact of all of the humans. And so I sent that doc out. I'm sure we'll get it to y'all shortly. But just sort of identifying the issues that we see, that we've heard, and welcoming the rest of them as well. But essentially looking at what are the plans around parking and shuttles? How do we pull everybody out of the downtown area that's specifically related to race traffic? How do we address decreasing the impact, keeping the businesses getting the impact they want, but at the same time removing the bulk of that that's creating maybe some stalling, some hassles in town and through Harrison. So that's a bulk of that document. It also kind of overlays for every event. So I just kind of want to start with that. In terms of the camps, I'm not sure what you need to hear more about
There's actually
that.
very little interface
Yeah.
with the city and the camps. They leave here and sooner or later they come back. And I think with the run camp, they have some dinners.
So everything takes place for the mountain bike camp. Essentially, they come in on Thursday. You don't really see them as much. Well, everything kind of starts and ends at the retail store at 316 Harrison. And our dinners are all at Freight. So everything is kind of contained in the appropriate places. And the riding is 2 days specifically where they go do half the course the first day and the second half the second day. So that's pretty low impact on town. In terms of the run camp, the first night we shuttle them out to May Queen, they run back. It's a night run. Friday is a run from May Queen. We shuttle them to there. They run to Twin Lakes. I've also been engaged in a lot of conversation with Kelly and Bob
Friends of Twin Lakes to make sure how we're interfacing over there. But that run is Friday or Saturday is just May Queen to Twin Lakes. We support them. Then Sunday is Twin Lakes to Winfield and back. We do a barbecue out there, so that's actually out with those guys at Willis Gulch, but nothing is really, the other two, one of them will have dinner at the Ski Cooper. So nothing big around the camps, I don't think impacting us, and nothing that needs to be closed, nothing that's a big request there.
Okay, thank you. Any input from staff?
No, I believe this is, you did request on I believe it's either the 100 run or the first night of that camp for an escort from your thing
So-
to 6th. Is that correct on 6th Street?
Not on 6th. Well, yes, I guess it is set up that way. I apologize. And Chief and I have spoken briefly about if we can arrange, we don't know if we talked directly about the camp, but we talked about stage race and we talked about 100 and just a lead out for that ride, which would be on Friday morning, brief, just out to essentially 9 and 90, 9 and 99, where the pavement ends and we go onto the dirt there to go towards Kevens. So it would be a lead out potentially there. And I
From
think we talked about
316
community
Harrison
service.
north
Yeah,
to
well, I mean, we
6th.
could use.
Which event are you talking about, though? That's not the run.
I was
camp.
talking about I don't know, there's the LT, the 100 run and the MTB camps were on one application. So that's why I'm
The mountain bike
asking.
camp mayor does, they have historically gone.
Oh, they go
from
down
town.
99?
They've
Okay.
gone from the retail store, not from like 6th and Harrison.
Gotcha.
But they've gone from the retail store and I don't know how, I'm happy to organize that with you directly and
Yeah, that's pretty simple. We could just use our CSO staff for that.
okay. And it will be about 80 people.
80?
80.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
It's very low key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll just add that to the motion.
Okay.
But that is for the mountain bike camp.
That's for the
Okay,
mountain
good.
bike only.
I
Yep.
just want to make sure.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
all right, thanks. Any questions? Then I would entertain a motion, please.
Motion, Loretto moves to approve temporary use permit for Leadville Race Series Electronic Fitness to host the Leadville Trail 100 Run Camp and Mountain Bike Camp from Friday, June 24th, 2022 through Sunday, July 3rd, 2022.
Do we have a second?
No second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Luna Lil,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Fergency,
Yes.
Councilmember Tharp,
Yes.
Mayor Lavi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, onward and upward.
Which one's next on the list?
Yeah, the next one is the marathon heavy
And
half,
heavy hats.
June 18th.
So Marathon and Heavy Half historically has been all organized around our property at 135 East Sixth Street. So that H&R Block, the old H&R Block building, and that section basically from the driveway up to Poplar is closed to get the race start finish set up. It is, nothing is changing about the layout of this. Nothing is changing about the whole system. We will have a little bit larger expo than we've had in the past. But nothing is significantly different in that realm. Everything is pretty status quo. We have Sports Hall of Fame who've put their permits in to pour beer for us for that event. We have Silver Dollar Saloon who will serve food. Their bin wraps are in. Those pieces are all moving through the correct systems, but nothing about this particular event is any different than it has been historically. It's staying pretty status quo. What questions could I answer that would help clarify?
If I may, I had one question on the bleachers, the original application. I'm sorry. And I talked to some people at the county and they were a yes, and your original thing had said a no, and I just don't know. And I would like to know.
And we did talk, actually, I don't know if you were in that meeting, Lori. So we did have kind of a general county meeting, and Felicia, I'm trying to think who was actually there representing, but we did talk through it together,
Yeah,
because my
Felicia.
point was, I wanted input from what do we want to do as a community? Do we
Right.
want to encourage spectating? Do we not want to? And that meeting, what came out of that from everybody in there was go ahead, there's no reason not to. It gives, and it actually where I landed was for our ADA considerations, it's better to have something there that we can allow people to have access to sit.
Okay, agreed.
So
I
we
just,
did-
I just didn't know where you landed. I'm sorry on that.
No,
And then
good
I did
question.
want to ask about the closure of the half of the 100 block of East 6. Is that still something that you were requesting? Because that's what I have.
Yep.
And I wanted to make sure that the
But
chief was aware of
that's
that.
from the alley up, right?
Yep, leave the alley
Right.
open so that you can come through that way. It doesn't
Perfect.
touch Harrison, nothing touches Harrison there. And that would be, let's clarify, this piece survey has it. We have Expo on Friday. So we would want to, or need to have that, access to that. And actually, I think we're fine. I don't know what I put it in the permit as, but we're fine to have that not be closed until we come in on, like, we'll need to set up the timing and all those pieces on Friday. So we need to pick a time that we all agree on. If Friday at 8 AM might be what I put for that section, just so we have access to be able to set up the start, finish and all of that and bring the bleachers down and get everything set. So that would be Friday for Expo, Saturday for the race. And then we'll be cleaning everything up Saturday night and moved out.
So if we put up the barricades on the east side of the alley,
Yep.
Friday morning,
Yep.
that gives you plenty of time to get set up.
I believe so.
What time is the expo supposed to start?
We're 2 to 8.
Oh, okay.
And Expo will all be contained in our property. It will just
Right.
be us needing to set up the actual road,
2 to 8 PM.
2 to 8 PM.
Okay.
How many participants do you anticipate?
We have, I think, put on there 750 in each race. And that's, I expect it'll be less than that. That's sort of the high number, and that is where the numbers are a little bit less than that right now, and we're closed. So we don't expect all those people to show up.
Yeah.
Is my point.
What's the snow load on Mosquito Pass like right now?
It's not horrible. I got parts of the way up there today, and I'll go back up tomorrow to just kind of get eyes on it, and then we'll have support to help move snow, but we're actually probably, unfortunately, gonna have very good access.
Excellent.
It's not where we really want to be moisture wise.
And is,
That's a good point. Yeah.
is this event short enough that you, do you have the same sort of athlete meetings ahead of the race as you do for the larger races? No, just sort of a show up and run.
We'll do everything within the H&R Block.
Gotcha.
Spot, and nothing else will be utilized for that.
They think marathons are for wimps.
That's not true.
I know, I know.
I managed to run one last year. It was the first one
Okay.
ever.
Yeah.
All right.
well,
So
If
just
you're not running
for,
100 miles, don't apply, huh?
just for point of clarification, then the motion says Saturday. You want the road closed Friday at 8 AM. The application has two different times on it. It's got 11 AM and then it's got 2 PM.
So we need to close the road at 8 AM. Thank you. That is a failure on my part. It was the first one that I did of that one, and I think I missed some things. So the road
So we
closure
need
on
to change
6 should be,
That's a 2.
Oh, that's the operating plan. Yeah, that I didn't.
And the motion is
Because I went off the application. The application said 8 AM Friday.
yeah.
So the
So-
motion should be 8 AM Friday.
Well, I guess technically because the event doesn't start until Saturday, so my head was going, the event
But
starts on Saturday.
The expo's on Friday. So I will, I'm making a note to let the street department know that it's Friday at 8 o'clock.
Thank you. So yeah, we should change that in the motion. You're right, Tracy.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
I did look at your sanitation plan, Tamara, and it's gonna be something that we're gonna be talking about a lot when it comes to the Leadville Trail 100 and mountain bike races going this way in E6, but is there a way to get, from an optics standpoint, we really have to think, even though that your application says that there's no spectators, it says 0 in the application, even though there's another part that says you still are anticipating, you're striving for 0, but you're thinking there's 1,000, right? And so I'm thinking about those people that are needing to use a bathroom as they're waiting for their runner or anybody to come in. Is there a way we can get some porta johns going out East 6 around to the corner there? So folks, we're talking about community members. I don't know how well they're going to be utilized by folks there, but what I would say is I think that the community would like it to have a couple of porta johns at some of those corners where spectators can use them. So we're not seeing people urinating in people's yards and that kind of stuff, which is a big concern for the hundreds, but I think it's something that I feel that we should ask Lifetime Fitness in general to add more of those types of sanitation facilities for our spectators, just because there's no place to go out there. And I'll tell you what, when you're waiting for your runner, you're not going to run back to town to use one of the 19 porta johns at the start or finish line. You're going to go behind somebody's car or behind somebody's barn. And I do believe that that is something that I would like
So
to see.
let's clarify. You're thinking like at 6th and St. Patrick's, which is at the T at the top, and then maybe another one at County Road.
6 and Orange. Right, I'm thinking like right as you're going.
Oh,
on
you're saying
6.
a little closer in.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I agree with this is I didn't think of spectators, but I know, I've run marathons before where within a mile off the start, there are people all over the place taking a leak in the bushes. I mean, it's a thing, for runners it is.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it would be good to have them for that reason as well. Sometimes runners think, oh, I don't have to go, I don't have to go. And they get started all of a sudden. Yeah, I do.
I don't think we're gonna stop the runners from needing to use the bathroom along the route. Just from a community perspective, that's what it's truly optics and for spectators use, really. Is that when you gotta go as a runner, you're gonna go. Or a biker, I think it doesn't matter.
So the one thing I would just throw in there, I'm happy to accommodate as best as we can for sure. This is a huge issue that we're trying to talk about out loud and way in front of when the races show up. So part of the race director's letter that I sent out to everybody, it's a part of podcasts, it's a part of webs, it's social media, everything. I will say on the marathon, it is the one race that we have toilets every 5 miles. And that first set of toilets is 2.7 miles, just so we have that piece. So I think what I hear you talking about, which is an issue, like I'm changing on the mountain bike, I'm going to put a couple in places where we haven't put them before in town for this very reason, because you just have so many people. And unfortunately, not everybody is as good at saying, I need to follow this idea of going to the bathroom wherever I'm going to go. My anxiety wins out. I'm going to be entitled. I'm going to be whatever the reason is. So it's definitely on my radar, and I'm not against putting it wherever we need to put them. Definitely have this particular race is interesting because we have toilets every 5 miles, which is actually fairly good. So I think we just if you say to me, we'd like to see 2 here and 2 here, or 1 here and 1 here, done, no problem.
And I don't know what those are, but I'm just thinking and I'd like to hear what the council, other folks in the council, but I don't know if it's necessarily for the participants. I think it's for the community members to say to the community that we're trying to address this issue of the spectators that are the ones that are sitting there crossing the lines waiting for the runner. I don't know, but I want to hear from others.
I don't disagree with you.
I certainly, man, I
Oh, please
certainly
do.
agree. Where do you think the bulk of those people are waiting?
That's a great question.
Well, I've
Is it
seen
at the finish?
spectators up at 6 at the end of 6.
Yep.
Seen spectators at that curve, and then they turn right there, right? And then they go up County Road 1 or 5th Street. And I've seen spectators where they turn that curve because sometimes the spectators are coming up in their cars, and then they're the runners are going through. After that, they're out in the county, and you don't have homes in the same sort of conflict. So I would say if there was one at 6th and St. Patrick's and another one at right there when they're turning left up onto County Road 1, and those are within a few blocks of each other. But I think if you had one in each of those spots, that would be a good Good start.
Good start.
Yeah.
See if it, oh,
Question, Mayor?
Yeah.
The one thought that I wonder is, what do we have in terms of people's private property issues and where we put those location wise and just being thoughtful about?
But no, I'm not gonna say it. I'm just gonna put it on the porch, but no, I'm not gonna.
You just said it.
It's actually, it's a good question. I think you can skew them out into the street a little bit, it's city right of way, in both those cases, and I think that'd be fine.
I know that we're gonna see both sides of this question. You know, and finding that middle ground that addresses it is huge, but then there's the side of that's my front yard. So I just want to be thinking about it.
Yeah, Bob Calder's front yard is right there now that I think about it.
Moving on.
They would have to be in the city right of way because they will have to be staked down. So to avoid personal property, we need them.
They
in
have to
the
be
right
staked
of way.
down?
They have to be staked down now because our winds are so bad. That's why they couldn't put the one where we wanted in the Tabor Opera House parking lot. They had to go to the back of it to get to the grass.
It's in the perfect spot. It's good.
It is. But
All
we
right.
do have to be staked down.
Are you okay with those two locations?
I'm okay with those two locations.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Then I would entertain a motion, please.
And if somebody could fix the motion for me, please, to say Friday, the 17th at 8 a.m. through Sunday the 19th. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Tharp moves to approve temporary use permit for LTF LRS to host their annual Leadville Trail Marathon and Heavy Half on Friday, 8 a.m. the 17th, 2022 until 6 p.m. Saturday, June 18th, 2022, including the additional porta potties.
Hill seconds.
That's it. Done.
Woo.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Luna Leo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Fergency,
yes.
Councilmember Tharp,
Yes.
Mayor Lobby.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have a discussion point. And I think that there's some city council members who would like to have this conversation with the Leadville Trail and Hunters. I know that you're working very hard, as far as I can tell, to maybe minimize the impacts on the local population during these races. It's always been a bit of a contentious issue. And it's not going away. So I would like to possibly hear from you first about what your thoughts are on this or where you're going with it, and then we'll probably have some questions.
So what I would say first is, I think this is going to be a 1 to 3 year, 5 year plan, right? We're going to shift the culture of what's happening here, which my initial this year plan is a much more comprehensive shuttle plan that involves the day before. So specifically for marathon, we'll have shuttles running from Community Fields High School, middle school. I've talked with them and need to talk with you all if you would approve us using 3rd Street that runs next to the high school. So not 3rd Street above it, but just where it runs right between the high school over to McQuethy. But utilizing, and I'll give you a big picture view. I think the idea is how can we push our athletes out of downtown? So the big message that I'm trying to send them is we have a grand privilege being able to run these races and have these events here in Leadville. And that privilege is extended to us from this backyard. And how do we show up in this backyard? So I have started this conversation loud and very directly with our whole audience. And behind that, right next to that is kind of these pieces to put in place. So I'm asking you to show up and follow the shuttle plan, follow the parking plan, follow some of these pieces that we're putting time and money into to kind of pull the impact off of downtown. So in an ideal world, we would actually right up at Safeway start to push our traffic down and around. So it all stays on the west side of Harrison. It goes to the areas we want them to park in. So either you are here the week before and you're in your short-term rental and you have your place there and your vehicle stays there. That's what we're encouraging if you're here the days before. For the days where we have an event like the expo before the race, we are asking our athletes to begin to push to these parking areas, and then we have professional parking staff and shuttle staff pushing this with us and helping move these people to those locations, and then they'll shuttle them up to town, back to their parking, up to town. And then using that same model and really starting, in 5 years, what I'd like to be at is we're only using shuttles. We're not parking in town at all. And they've become accustomed to this cultural shift of like other towns where I can think of towns where you don't get to have cars in town at all. So we're trying to build a cultural shift where we can decrease the impact of the race business itself and the footprint. That's one piece. I mean, we all know that these events have a huge footprint and it has so many layers to it. So I'm looking at it through the lens of sustainability. I'm looking at it through the lens of direct human contact impact. How many meals are we not using? I'm looking at every angle of how do we decrease this and have less impact overall. And in the large picture here is how are we not taking over Leadville? How does this series start to take some ownership of moving away from the center of town and having a lot of respect and regard for the privilege of being in this space. So the short of that is an extensive shuttle traffic plan that's pretty involved, all the way to when we get into the hundreds. I've added on, for the mountain bike, I've added on probably 4 shuttles total, in addition to, so we have 4 vans, 2 extra people movers, and then 3 large buses, which we've had in the past about 2 buses, and we might have the vans if we're lucky. So we've added on about 5 additional vehicles that we can use to help move people. For the run, same thing. And again, all of these pieces are aimed at how do we have less impact. So as everybody probably knows at this point, Pacers are not allowed in Winfield. How do we continue this? We will not have Pacers there anymore. How do we continue to not impact Winfield, Twin Lakes, and Leadville? So it's not just Leadville either. There's actually, additional communities that we need to think about. So I can pause there and you guys can help me get into the nitty gritty of what you want to hear about.
I would like to make a statement. I like that you're being proactive about this, and I know it's been discussed for a long time. I think we need to be very careful not to make racers feel unwelcome. There's a big difference. Instill discipline, but still welcome them to Leadville. We don't want them to not be in town.
Right.
There's that in my mind. So sorry, that's just a thought.
Well, and I think to Max's point earlier, I think part of the challenge is communicating those expectations and good neighbor vibes to the spectators who, like in prior years when we've received noise complaints with the Leadville 100 leaving down 6th Street, it's not the racers who are making noise. It's their supporters. And I don't see so much of a problem with the actual participants as I do with the entourage.
Nothing quite like a cowbell at 4 a.m.
You gotta love it.
Or
So,
a shotgun, yeah.
and to that point, I would say, so to address what you're saying, Mayor, first off, and then to piggyback that, my tone has been a lot around welcome back and we're excited to have you here and we appreciate it. And I hit it from the angle of so many of you have reached out asking, what can you do? How can you be a part of this community? How can you show up? What can you do? And I basically said, I want to take a moment and tell you directly what's important here. We have the grand privilege of being here in this backyard. And so a lot of it falls on how we be a good human. And that's how we be a good spectator, how we be a good crew member, how we be a good racer. Because honestly, I think a lot of our trash, a lot of our bathroom things, a lot of our noise isn't necessarily the actual racer. And I kind of looked at that from a bunch of different angles too, wondering that same question and really watching what happened in the 3 races that I did direct last year and noticing that it wasn't the racers, it was the person who got anxiety over, oh my gosh, I got to get to the next aid station really fast. So then I leave all this stuff or I don't think about these things. And so I think it's an evolving conversation and it's creating education, right? It's letting people know the why of you've been asking us, what can you do? And how do you be a part of this community? You feel the magic of it. Here's how we get to show up. This is the gift we get to give back. So that's been the tone. And it's been directed at spectators, crews, and the racers, but largely I'm thinking about the spectators myself and the crew members, so.
Go ahead, Tim.
I just had a question. I appreciate the effort being made to park remotely. I think that's a tremendous stressor on our locals, on the impacts, on the starts of the big races, basically taking over town with taking up all the parking and whatnot. So I appreciate that effort that you're making to park remotely. I'm also wondering if you've been in contact with the school district about perhaps using their facilities at the schools, the locker rooms, bathrooms, and such, and maybe even getting a local vendor involved to serve some coffee and pastries and stuff like that in the cafeteria.
With the idea being,
Just to take some of well, first of all, to get them to park up there. Like, there's going to be plenty of bathrooms. There's going to be coffee and pastries.
Mhm.
Come on up, park up here, and also to take a little bit of the burden off the downtown location of, the coffee shops and stuff like that. I mean, you cannot get a cup of coffee in town. Race day start. So just wondering if you're considering any of that.
no, I will be very honest with you. I was not thinking in the realm of keep them down there. But I hear you. I mean, not opposed to thinking through it.
Well, I'm not saying exactly keep them there, but
Yeah,
get their bathroom needs over, get their changing needs addressed. Where they're parking.
mhm.
And then, get them a cup of coffee in their hand and then shuttle them downtown.
I would say this to Tim's point, as a relay runner, and the 200-mile relays, your van might be, throwing the sleeping bags on the football field at night. But one of the coolest things in relays is a lot of them that night, the high school will be at the school with the showers and they rent towels. They charge $5 for the shower and like another $5. It's a tremendous fundraiser and it works. I mean, the competitors just love being able to take a shower. And that's a real reasonable cost. So all I'm saying is, to Tim's point, there are ways to fold in
Mhm.
that possibility with school fundraising activities, a lot of different possibilities. And I know that, probably a little late in the season to be thinking about implementing that right now, but as a future state, it might be worth considering.
Well, and yeah, I will be honest about how many more things I can put on my plate right now, just like the rest of us, I'm sure. But I will say this, like CMC and I have been discussing how we do that with CMC. And so I think you're bridging an idea that's already been at play, just hadn't been with the high school. And I'm more than happy to explore that. I want to make sure that I stay very clear that I'm not sure I can guarantee that this season. But very open to the idea. The problem with extra vendors down there, I think, is who we have available to do it at that point. That's the only thing I see with that. Now, in terms of showers and thinking about camping down there and ideas like that, bathrooms, no problem. That kind of thing, I think makes total sense. I get that idea for sure.
I know Ride the Rockies has camped out in the high school gym and had meals in the cafeteria.
I believe there's some unused showers at the.
I think the
former
school
pool site.
district might even be open to catering out of there. I mean, the school food services can do that. To speak to your vendor idea, and it could be a good fundraiser for the schools.
I was gonna say, I think Lifetime Fitness is really supplementing the budget for the
Yeah, that's
high
right.
school
That's
food
right.
anyway.
Sorry, George, you had a comment, please. Go ahead.
Just as a side, I'd like the Bucky's used to rent a old football field.
There we go.
And we used to do the parking for the Courage Crossing. We used to use those.
And I think the Lions Club used to serve meals
Well,
in the
we used
cafeteria.
to get there at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, these are just throwing out ideas.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
Can I ask, just another statement here is, and first of all, Tamara, thank you so much for starting to shift the culture around this, because I mean, as a participant in the running race, it's awesome to come into town. I mean, it is truly, when you get there, it's an experience, right? You made it. You made it back to Leadville. You started in Leadville, you ended in Leadville. And I really hope that we can have the spectators show up and provide those services so they can show up, right? So we're not, and once again, the optics and the conversation that we had here, the letter to the city. But one thing that I'd also like to bring up, and I know that this is outside of your purview, but I do want to make the statement, is that I also want to ask as a council member for Lifetime Fitness to show up a little bit as well as a organization. And that being said, their building on the west side or south side of Harrison on Elm Street, that sidewalk going down Elm Street is actually their responsibility to fix. And it's not a sidewalk. And we have businesses, viable businesses down that way. And so I'd ask Lifetime Fitness, beyond just the race series itself, to show up and actually put concrete on that sidewalk where there should be a sidewalk.
It's on West
Because
Second.
pardon me, Second Street.
By the pastime.
Yeah, by the past.
It's alongside the fence there at your parking lot.
Yeah.
Across the street.
Second and Harrison.
Wild Bills.
Well,
yeah.
She probably knew nothing about it.
Tamara doesn't
This
know
has been
about
I
this.
know.
2 years
But I had that conversation with Bahram and Chemo. This is probably 5 years ago. And at that time, they said they were going to do that. And then, what's that?
And the fence.
Well, yeah, we kind of objected to the look of the fence, but nonetheless, and what they did instead is they paved the parking lot, which is great, but they never went any further with the fence or the sidewalk. So they did say they were going to do that, and it just hasn't happened. And you know, we haven't pressed them either, so.
I'm asking because we have viable businesses down there, and you turn down and it looks like you went back 100 years in time. It would be great if we could actually.
That wasn't the goal?
No, I don't think so. But
It's historic.
it's historic, but I mean, you have a fantastic sidewalk system around your East 6 on East 6 and your property there. It would be fantastic if you could share that sentiment with whoever you can to get them to change the sidewalks out on there. Second Street.
And I was trying to picture, but
Yeah.
now I can kind of think about it. And I will need to invite somebody to go with me and look at it
No.
and just say, this is what we need to
When
deal
you
with.
guys did the parking lot, you did a beautiful job of the sidewalk onto Harrison Avenue, and they did a great job of that sidewalk around the property at 6th and Poplar. You know, so they.
It's possible.
It's doable is what you're saying?
Oh, and they've
And-
done a great job every time they've done it.
I think it's, now that you've got it on my radar, that's helpful because I didn't know anything about it. And I know that one of the
I was
things,
talking to them when they said that. I'd be glad to be part of that conversation. I don't mind reminding them.
I don't know that we're gonna have to do that. I think that's something I can just take care of. And before the chief leaves here.
You almost got away.
He's been so patient. And I just, one thing, could I shift gears for just a second? Because I do want to have his input if needed. One of the pieces that Lori and I talked about, I don't know if that falls into this part, the discussion, it's okay? Okay. In this cultural shift, I have entertained a couple of things, and you're going to see this on the community impact of like 2 options for how start finish is. So my first thing when I stood there last year and I watched both hundreds was the safety issues. So whether it was 3 in the morning or it was 5 in the morning, the motorist versus pedestrian, the motorist versus cyclist, motorists just at risk of being in a situation that would suck for anybody. And I'm certainly not going to blame the motorist here, but how do we take care of it and mitigate it? And this Harrison, so we can have Harrison closed for an hour and a half, and it was not fixing the situation. So I wrote 2 different proposed ideas for the mountain bike, and that was my hope, was to lay it out here tonight to answer any questions, come back as needed. In an ideal world, in a really ideal world, we'd shut down Harrison, I'll just say it, I'll be really transparent, we'd shut it down, it would be super safe, we wouldn't have to worry about anything happening, we would get the businesses, I would work really hard to get the businesses to have sidewalk sales and do whatever and be a part of this and be involved in that, and that would be really maybe a different version of Boom Days or a different version of other things that we have that do that. That would be the ideal world where we just get safe, we have our folks out of
For
Safeway.
how long?
Just for race day.
Like the whole day?
Well, in an ideal world, because you have people coming back, right? And I would get really proactive around how we engage the businesses and keep business coming in there so that we don't hit that wall. Like I see both sides of this, but safety wise, I've been watching this and I'm like, this is lucky that we haven't seen something happen in this arena to this point. Because there's so much happening and there's so much congestion. And to me, that plan being ideal, that'd be fantastic, is where we would definitely have folks up at Safeway pushing race traffic one direction and the public maybe parking on the west side so that they can have easy access to downtown, like the public that's trying to go through. So ideal world, safety wise, that would be, this is the mountain bike only, not for the run, just for the mountain bike. Big picture view. Like we have all this stuff happening up at Expo. We have this stuff happening down here. That split creates a lot of people moving in a lot of different directions as well. If we bring them all in, we have a concerted effort around, some kind of Finish Fest that all happens right in the same area. We keep everybody in that area. We push them into the businesses, but we don't have to deal with this traffic issue, which to me, having 10 years of background in fire and traffic and watching some of the things that I've seen scares me a little bit. So that's that piece. What happens with that whole picture is we can suddenly cut down on food that's lost, that we're spending, it's not even money, it's going nowhere. Like all these things, like I'm watching us leave a footprint in so many arenas. And suddenly if everything is back in one place, we can really confine and get people to utilize and be a part of. I think the whole system, we can decrease overall impact. So the big push here is around safety. Proposal number 2, that's ideal world would be number 1. Proposal number 2 would be that if we don't go down that path, that we think about closing, because the other area that we've seen be a problem around the mountain bike is 6th and Pine. And my second proposal, if we don't like the first one, is that we push everything to the west side of Harrison. We close 6th down to halfway into the 200 block. So everything, all the crowds, everybody's on the west side. We have pushed as much of the traffic to the west side as we can from the get-go. We've got them parked down there. We're shuttling them up. Caveat, this is going to take time to execute, but it would be creating a design plan that I think would put all of our traffic. It would decrease the Harrison impact.
You wouldn't have any racers on the other side, on the east side of Harrison, waiting to cross.
Right.
Okay, interesting. That's interesting.
And then we would do like a full-blown Finish Fest in that area, right? And that would be sort of right in the courthouse area. So we have to work together with the courthouse to see what would be usable, what isn't in that space. But the idea would be, and actually here's where we're pushing, this will be a big change and you guys get to be the first to know it, is we're going to move to Buckles in the Chute and we're going to move to awards on Saturday night so that we can actually start to decrease some of the impact to some degree. As we all know in this room, we've heard the story thousands of times, if not 3 million. The idea was that we were going to keep people in Leadville as long as we could. Doesn't seem like we need to do that anymore. We can probably all agree that we're okay whether these racers, and they're probably going to stay anyway. Like I don't ever want to detract from the stability and the economic stability that the races give, but I don't think that's our issue. I think our issue is how can we contain this? How can we bring it in, reel it in, keep them safe, have a great experience, and let them go home. So there's 2 proposals for that discussion for the mountain bike permit only. Those are why those are on there. And I have had a chance to talk with the chief and now our new interim sheriff and start to talk and walk through a lot of pieces. And I will just say this because I appreciate that you were trying to get out of here. And thank you.
Make them stay.
This has gone way longer than any of us meant for it to. But at this point on Mountain Bike Day, I have 14 committed professional traffic staff, not my personal staff, not anybody else. I'm gonna probably add another 6. So we're gonna boost our traffic support on course in town by 4 times. Like, we have not had that level of professional support. So just to kind of get to where I feel like, to me, this is a community decision. This is a, what do we do to make this a better event for everybody? How do we keep everybody safe? How do we get the impact we want and decrease the impact we don't want? So I've started working with Chief and with now interim Sheriff Speckman. We will meet regularly. And it's, to me, it's like, you guys help me figure out how we do this, but I am going to beef our staff up immensely along this whole picture. I'm going to pause there because I really do want to let him go, but I want to make sure that if we need anything.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Tamara? Yeah, please.
Thanks, Tamara. Thanks for all the thought and intention. I know you're really prioritizing community relationship. Appreciate that. Last year during the races, I happened to be walking around, probably like many of us, getting my signatures for city council during the bike and the 100 race. And I'm really thinking about those residents of 100 block of 6th Street. And some of them are having a real hard time. Some of them are loving it. Some were on their lawn chairs having the best day of their life. And so I know it's both. One guy was like trapped, like he couldn't get his truck out of the driveway because he didn't move it like on Thursday. So I think one thing I'm wondering is, those folks were wondering, who do I reach out to? And is there a way, is there anyone they can call day of, like during the race, like, hey, someone's parking in front of my driveway, can you help me, or whatever, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, 100% me.
Okay.
And I
is
will
that-
direct it where it needs to get taken care of and get it out of the way.
Okay, and could there be some outreach to those most affected neighbors who might need, you know, I could see an ad in the paper, I could see mailings. or
I've started
whatever,
walking door to door. I haven't
Okay,
gotten
and
down,
that's
up and down the
terrific too.
street, and I am behind where I wanted to be in that part of my
Mhm.
place, but my thought process there is right with you, Councilman Tharp, sorry. Is to go up and down and just talk to everybody I can. I have begun that process, and I feel like that's more important, to have that personal contact and talk through what we
That's
can do.
excellent.
So that's my answer to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions? I would echo Councilmember Tharp's comment that I appreciate the thoughtfulness you're putting into this and the creativity. You know, some of these ideas may work, some of them may not. But at least you're thinking in a way that tries to take the community into account. I appreciate that very much.
And the other two TUPs that she submitted will probably be on the June 7th.
June 7th, and that'll be for the 100 run and the 100 mountain bike.
Nothing is changing drastically with the run.
Okay,
Just so you know that going into it.
Ms. Day.
I would just like to thank Tamara, sorry, and also like to just be a great partner with the Tabor Opera House and the city of Leadville, coordinating a construction easement. It's a
Oh, that's
moving
right.
Complication, it's, you know, kind of embedded in part of the resolutions tonight. So very
Yeah.
proactive, very community minded, and we have just really mobilized very quickly after we finally get connected. So I really just appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, Hal, one more thing.
Thanks, Chief.
See you later. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you for your patience tonight.
Okay. 10A, resolution number 19, series of 2022, a resolution approving a construction contract with A&M renovations for phase 2 of the Tabor Opera House rehabilitation of exterior envelope project. Ms. Baird.
Thank you very much, council. Very excited that we're advancing phase 2 of the Tabor Opera House rehabilitation project. We only had one qualifying bidder that ended up being eligible to submit a package, which was the same contractor that was awarded the phase 1 project, which is great because we will have consistency. They are amazing at detail and completely came in well under budget without needing to utilize much of contingency for phase 1. That said, phase 2 is a little more complicated, as I just alluded to. So we have some, moving pieces. I've been joking that it's kind of Jenga and Rubik's Cube. That being said, we anticipate working on a small portion of the north wall after you award the contract starting in June, and then mainly the east wall, which is the wall that abuts to the alleyway for this year's season. And hopefully that will kick off in early June. Andy with Heritage A&M has been already attending many meetings and working with the volunteers as we mobilize to figure out the best way to secure our awesome scenery sets that have complicated this issue.
Because you have to build an additional wall across the back.
That's now scratched. They're going to be
Oh.
doing an interior hoist lift of all of the sets, and then we will, it's very complicated because any time of movement of those scenery sets is a critical potential loss. And so they have to use it very thoughtfully in how we move this. But we have to mobilize that in order to do a long range planning with our partners at Lifetime Fitness, for what we will end up probably doing a swing arm off of the roof of the Tabor Opera House in order to do the north wall work. But that's
Oh.
going to take an engineered solution through all of this year and
Will that be
some
from
of
the
winter.
top?
Yes, that's
Okay.
likely what's going to have to happen.
Okay,
Yes.
wow.
Okay. If you have any questions about the contract, happy to answer as staff at the Opera House and coordinating these efforts. Thank you.
This is fully funded at this point, correct?
That's correct. So we have historic tax credits coming in, and we're also getting a little more than we anticipated with a state historic fund grant through the foundation that the mayor had to sign and execute, but it is to the foundation. Then we have the DOLA grant that came directly to the city for $600,000. We have a Gates Family Foundation grant, and Alpamar just recently awarded us $25,000, which is great because it's helping us with this scenery mobilization issue that was unexpected.
Any questions for Ms. Day? Any comments from staff?
And Evan is on there if you needed her.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Evan, have you guys reviewed this contract?
Yes, Christiana did before she left, and she said it's good to go.
Excellent. If there are no more questions, I would entertain a motion, please.
Councilmember Lunardi moves to adopt resolution number 19, series of 2022, a resolution approving a construction contract with HMM Renovations LLC for phase 2 of the Tabor Opera House rehabilitation for of exterior envelope project.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sarp.
Yes.
Councilmember Fergency.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Lunaleo.
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
Yes.
Mayor Lobby.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, the next one, and the most amazing one. I am curious about how you got this done, because I really thought this was going to be a real challenge.
For the temporary easement
Yes.
with Lifetime Fitness.
Mhm.
Tamara was amazing to let us into the building, and we coordinated with their staff out of, I think, Minnesota. I will say they did try to ask if there was any funding that we could give them in terms of any impacts to their building. And I delicately explained to them that we are all community partners and their events are housed here in the city of Leadville. And they took that message very clearly and advanced this forward. They've really been quite excellent to work with. We'll need to continue to have conversations with them, particularly for a easement for next year's construction season. And then long going, we'll need the city will need an actual easement long-term, particularly once we look at a solution for the balcony and getting people access out safely. So long range, we have a lot of planning and negotiating to work through.
Would we have to have an easement for that? I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself, but for the emergency exit from the balcony, even if it never touched their property, but it just hangs over their property?
No, but we should have some sort of easement because there's nothing in place, and to do any kind of repair work or easement in the future does
Okay.
complicate it. So it is something that we've flagged and something we intend to continue to work on, but at least the relationship has started. We're having really good conversations and we are partnering with them. And Chemo has also been quite responsive to emails. So hopefully we can look to them to be a future partner for the contribution to interior rehabilitation and maybe financially contribute. Who knows? We'll try.
And if it doesn't become the Lifetime Fitness Opera House.
We have no problems with having sponsorships and have some ideas, but it's probably going to stay the Tabor Opera House.
You could put them, they could be in the ghost sign somewhere.
There's lots of strategies.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
All right. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion, please.
Councilmember Jensen moves to adopt resolution number 20 series of 2022, resolution approving a temporary construction and access easement agreement with LTF Real Estate Company Incorporated for installation of temporary construction fencing and scaffolding related to phase 2 of the Tabor Opera House rehabilitation exterior envelope project.
Well, second.
Well done.
I'm sorry, Hill seconded. Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Loretson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Luna Leo.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Fergency.
Yes.
Councilmember Tharp.
Yes.
Mayor Lovey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 10D. That is resolution 22, series 2022, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of city discretionary funds for the 4th of July fireworks. George, you're still here?
Does he get $850 just because he stayed until the bitter end?
Actually,
Good night, Sarah.
Happy birthday.
happy birthday. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been a bit of a walk down memory lane for me. I wrote the software that the Trail 100 series used for years at a time, the race and their website. I'm intimately familiar with the backdrops of the Tabor Opera House because I was the assistant maintenance man there for probably 10 years. I'm also past president of the Boom Days Committee, past president of the Lions Club, and I'm a member of the Masons here who every year does a top 10 dinner for the top 10% of the graduating high school class. So
Nice.
all of the things you covered here tonight were
I
things
didn't
that I've
realize the
directed.
Masons did that. I think it's fantastic.
My daughter
Yeah.
had a
Where do you do it?
fantastic time.
Oh, okay.
We bring them all up to the lodge.
Oh,
We
up to
serve
the
them dinner,
lodge, okay.
and, we do some presentations, give them certificates of appreciation.
Yeah, nice.
that kind of- And we also do, between the Masons and the OAS, we do about, what is it, $6,000 in scholarships.
Okay.
every year.
So how much do we need to make you happy tonight?
So I hope you saw the document I sent over. Basically, I'm head of the fireworks for the Lions Club. We've been doing it for over 70 years. And I'm also the safety officer for the Lions Club. So over the past, probably 6 years, we have moved away from having 35 to 45 people up on the hill, manually moving shells into mortars and having somebody with road flares lighting those flares, or lighting those shells off. It's dark, it's rocky, it's dangerous. And so we have gone to, on our larger shells, we have gone to these small little electronic igniters. We did that as a proof of concept. I started that about 4 years ago, but due to fire bans and COVID, we've had just now enough experience to know which direction we need to go in. So we will take the
the volunteer population from 45 to 6 or 8 people up on the hill, and be able to electronically fire all of the 2 types of fireworks we're using now. We're using 8-inch shells, all shells, one-shot shells, 8, 6, 5s, 4s, and 3s, I believe. And it's a lot of logistics night of. Now we're using what are called cakes, which are boxes which have 1.5-inch shells in them that are anywhere from 100 to 400 shells. And we still have the 5 and 6-inch shells. We dropped the 8-inch, which broke my heart because I like the big boom. But when we determined that we're within legal distance to the highway, but we decided we weren't quite, it wasn't satisfactory to us. So we dropped that for ranging. And what we're looking for, because we haven't done we don't feel it's appropriate to go out and ask the general public for donations on a year that we have fire bans. We're about $2,000-3,000 short this year. One of the things that was in that budget were these electronic firing devices, which to me, for us, is a CapEx. That is not it's a one-time expense for us that's going to be used over the years. The variable costs there are the batteries, because each of the little units takes 4 AA batteries, and there's 240 times 4, figure, do the math. You know, it's a lot of batteries, but we handle that in cash flow. What we're asking for is some help with the with these units to be able to buy the batteries to fire electronically and keep the fireworks program going and keep it safe.
Excellent. Any questions for George? I have a question. Are all of the ignitions going to be remote electronic this year? Are you there yet?
If we get this, they will all be electronic.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you. So is it the same process for burying the tubes?
The 6-inch and the 5-inch tubes, we have to bury. The cakes sit on the ground, which
Right,
is
got it.
another nice thing. We don't have near the tubes to pull out of the dirt at 10 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to say, I submit an application to the fire department every year with a site plan and all of that. And it's been a pleasure to work with this fire department.
Good, good. Well, they always want to make it happen.
Yes.
That's my impression. And sometimes they just can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
They seem to like to blow things up too.
Any questions for George? Any suggestions relative to this? Okay, then it seems like a fairly straightforward matter if we're willing. I would entertain a motion, please.
Councilmember Lunalel moves to approve resolution number 22, series of 2022. A resolution authorizing the expenditure of the city's discretionary funds for the 4th of July fireworks.
At what amount?
At, I think the amount here is $850, right?
Okay,
Green seconds.
thank you.
And for my own record, city's discretionary funds is this same thing as our contingent.
Yeah, it's contingent fund. But what's the amount left right now?
We're
Councilmember
doing
Gray?
just fine. With this, that'll push us up to around 7,000 and we set
That's
aside.
funny. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
Yeah.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Lunarel.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Fergency.
Yes.
Councilmember Tharp.
Yes.
Mayor Lottie.
Yes.
Thank you.
George, thanks for all you do.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'd like to say, it's a pleasure working with you as well for this presentation for our community, and thank you for working for a safer process.
It's been run by some old school boys. And, getting that first cut was a little bit rough, but once they saw it, they came up.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's also, it's been run by two of the finest men we know. Yes, sorry, to say that, but thank you.
You can stick around if you want. It's not midnight yet. Okay. Next up, this is resolution 23, series of 2022, a resolution proclaiming May as Wildfire Preparedness Month for the city of Leadville in Lake County, Colorado. So I will read this. It's a resolution instead of a proclamation, but it has the same effect.
Correct.
Whereas 20 of Colorado's largest wildfires have occurred within the last 20 years, and 4 of the 5 largest fires in state history have occurred within the last 3 years, including the most destructive fire in state history just 5 months ago. And whereas warmer temperatures, drought, and continued development in the wildland-urban interface have made wildfire mitigation a top priority for the city of Leadville and Lake County, and whereas Wildfire Preparedness Month is focused on encouraging residents to learn about wildfire safety and take steps to reduce wildfire risk in and around their homes. And whereas these activities will lead to unified and fire-adapted communities throughout the city of Leadville and Lake County. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Leadville, Colorado as follows: that the City Council of the City of Leadville, the Council, hereby declares May 2022 as Wildfire Preparedness Month in the City of Leadville, and that the City Council hereby finds, determines, and declares that this resolution is necessary for the safety, welfare, and resilience of the residents of the City of Leadville in the County of Lake, State of Colorado. All right, thank you. And Lori, explain to me why this was a resolution instead of a proclamation.
We received a request to do this proclamation from our partners in Eagle County. And they proposed this is how they proposed doing the proclamation. And so the county went ahead and made it a resolution. And so to be consistent with our community partners, we just wanted to do the same format. Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
has the same effect, but so you're correct.
All right.
Right, yes, after it, because it is a resolution, you need to actually vote on it.
All right. Now we have agenda item 10F, but we've run out of time. So.
Did you? No, they have to vote on it.
Wildfire.
Oh, we have to actually do that. I'm sorry.
I almost said wildfire appreciation month, but that's not what
Wildfire
it is.
appreciation. I apologize for that. I would entertain a motion, please.
Councilmember Thorpe moves to approve resolution number 23, series 2022, a resolution proclaiming May as a wildfire preparedness month for the city of Leadville in Lake County, Colorado.
Moving on 11 seconds.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Loretson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Luna Well.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Fergensi.
Yes.
Councilmember Tharp.
Yes.
Mayor Levy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for keeping me on track. Chief Daly. You have some, what are you selling us?
That's yours, buddy.
This is resolution 24, series of 2022, a resolution authorizing the city of Leadville to purchase one Type 1 fire engine for Leadville Lake County Fire Rescue. I know you have some input, but Brian's on also. And would you like for him to speak to us first, or would you like to go first? Okay, well, then please go ahead.
And I'm not gonna try to take a lot of time this evening. I'm sorry to wait. I do really like that last resolution. It's always great to bring and keep those types of thoughts and have that kind of awareness for our community. So that was wonderful. February 23rd, I met with the management board meeting because we had an opportunity presented to us when we went out for the pre-construction for the Type 3, as you know, out of the Type 1 in the production line. I presented it to the management board. It was very supportive to the management board. That's why I gave the presentation last time to you on March 15th. And then I went and did a presentation on April 4th to the Board of County Commissioners, and it received it very well from the board as well over there. From that, stemmed the conversation with Marcella, and she had introduced me to Brian Brown. Brian Brown is an expert in his field for apparatus, and he's a fleet consultant. And we hired his services to be able to provide a thorough, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it here this evening. You do have this, because I know some of these things took in at a later time, but so this is his report. So I'll turn it over to Brian to introduce himself, and then we go through his report a little bit and his findings.
Good evening, Brian.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine.
I was hoping you'd go longer. Yeah, I was watching the Colorado Avalanche play. What can I answer? What can I answer for you?
Well, do you want me to just kind of do an overview over here, or would you like to do an overview on what you found with the engine itself?
That'd be fine, Chief. So really the number one, I think it's a heck of a deal, especially with the current market on not only new, but also used fire apparatus. I think it's a great deal for the city of Leadville. My only concern I had when I first started looking at the specifications was number one, the engine, and then number two, the pump. The Cummins L9 engine several years ago had big time issues and problems with the head gasket, especially head gasket leaking, which now included replacing the head, the piston, the combustion chambers, the liners, and all that other stuff. So looking into that, I pulled the serial number, got with Cummins, and it is the new upgraded L9 engine with the new updated head gasket. So the rest of the items on the truck, as far as the suspension, the weight distribution rating that BME does, the tilt table, which is pretty much unheard of, and the Darley pump that's in there, all looks really, really good. I actually spoke with my contacts at Boise Mobile Equipment, Darley fire pumps, Cummins engine, and so on and so on. So I actually put the report together based on my findings and the findings that I got from other subject matter experts, and really came to the conclusion that this is a great choice and one heck of a deal, because realistically in the new fire apparatus market now, instead of 489 to 589, which is another great move by the chief's part, is to put that $100,000 change order fee in there, is with the used fire apparatus market. Just the truck itself is around $750,000 to $780,000, and you're looking at about anywhere from 18 to 24 months delivery time. Used fire apparatus from several of the vendors that I contacted are about the same price as this new one that you're looking at. So that's the short summary. And I'd be happy to dive into it more or answer any questions you have.
So I'll just add to that. We did have a concern about the pump being a 1500 GPM pump. We do believe that it will pump at 1250 GPM at this altitude. Brian did look into that for us and reached out to Darley for that pump. There is some suggestions in here that he added, and we've done some of those in the change orders already with BME. One of the things that I am going to follow up with them is to disconnect the actual foam system from the 3-inch discharge from the master stream, because as soon as you turn that master stream off, foam's gone. So it doesn't make any sense for it to be attached to the master stream on the piece of equipment. So I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have. The Board of County Commissioners are on the board as well. I'll have a meeting on next Tuesday for them to vote as well. We just need to figure out the actual financing of the piece of equipment. If we put the 100,000 down, it's currently in the operational budget that the city and county set aside of 30 and 70 to total that 100,000, then we have a $489,000 balance that needs to be paid, and it's and I think it's in there also. I think it's 176 roughly for the city and about 342 for the county.
And would,
I'm sorry, please
I
go ahead.
was, would that be something that we would finance, or would that be a one-time fee out of out of our general?
Even if we finance it, it would go into the budget
Mhm.
and it would still be the 70-30 split. Depends on how that financing takes place. That's part of the conversation we've been having in the fire management board. There are a couple different options. We just want to, if we can, dovetail with the county on how that financing is going to happen.
They have said, the county has mentioned that they may just pay for their portion outright as well. So that's also been a consideration.
I was just mostly wondering from the standpoint of our discussions about the justice.
I actually can't, can you just talk a little closer to the microphone? I can't.
I'm just wondering from the standpoint of us talking about like the purchase of 809 Spruce and the discussion of the Justice Center, like, it seems like a pretty small commitment on our part, but I just want to be cognizant of things adding up.
This, and I'm going to jump in because we've had a lot of conversations about this in the fire management board, Dan and I, and also with the county. And so the $100,000 has already been set aside for capital improvement. And so that is money that's already there. The chief and I have talked about, how if we did finance it, what those payments would look like. And, not that he has to, but it is possible to, if he feels this is appropriate, to pay those out of fire funds. So that the fire fund balance. So that is, the fire fund balance is training and a number of other things. So, but it also depends on how much money comes in. But I wanted to keep that in mind, that the fire department's a little different than some of their other departments, that their funds don't automatically come out of the general fund. But we want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck. That paying it off all at once, if the county chooses to do that, it may be smarter for the city to finance it because of the time value of money. And if interest rates are low enough, it might make sense to do that.
Please.
It seems to me like this is not a if but when sort of purchase, and if we have the opportunity to do it now, the impression I get from Chief Daly as well as our consultant there is that this will just cost more later.
Yeah.
So, and please correct me if I'm misrepresenting that, but that's one reason I am inclined to support this. The other reason is I just found out that May is wildfire preparedness. And that's the reality. Our future is a more fiery future.
Sometimes we plan the agenda, but
Yeah. And the
I
data
feel
that Chief
manipulated.
Daly presented tonight indicates that call volumes are going up. And it just, to me, this seems like an important purchase in response to that data.
And I can piggyback off of that. I think that it is very clear that these droughts and these fires are going to continue, as we just found out by our last thing that we approved. And honestly, it's going to cost us more in repairs if we don't have appropriate response to this crisis that is inevitably going to happen.
To be clear, type 1 fire engine is not for wildland fire deployment.
Yeah.
It's for structural fires, and a single fire engine is not gonna assist with, well, we'll assist in a small amount, but once this massive thing goes off called our backyard, it's not gonna do anything. I believe this is for replacement value specifically for the LLCFR and the Fire Protection District. as much as May is wildland fire preparedness. month,
It's urban fire
Yeah,
month.
urban fires, yes.
I
exactly.
would say this, the driving force here, to Max's point, was not about wildland fire. It's about the expediency of the possibility of this. It's about the condition of the rest of our fleet in terms of type 1 engines, which is a real problem for us. And as Brian pointed out, and as Chief Daly has pointed out, the price is considerably below market price, and can be delivered in 3 months rather than 2 years. That was what the Fire Management Board really focused on. The Type 3 engine is the piece of equipment that holds great value for wildland interface.
Would it, I do get that distinction, and thanks for pointing it out. Is it important to have this type 1 for the urban setting so that the type 3 is free to go for wildfire? Like, would the type 3 end up getting pulled into urban fires if we didn't have the type 1? Does that make sense?
I think I'm following you. You're talking about response capabilities.
Yeah.
On which piece of equipment would go.
Yeah.
So initially, our type 1 goes on everything first. The staffing model that we have currently right now, we're able to split the crew. So the last fire that we had down there, Cache Creek Fire,
Yeah.
we ended up taking the type 1 and the tactical tender with us. So if it's a wildland fire, tongue goes out wildland fire, we'll probably bring the type 1 and the type 3. Or the type 3 and the tactical tender, depending on what's in district at the time and what the information that we're seeking dispatch.
But I'd also say the Type 3 is not really adequate. It might be a fill-in in a pinch, but it's not capable of what a Type 1 is capable of.
Oh, was that
For
actual
urban,
question?
for urban fire.
Oh, yes, that's correct. Yeah, it has less capability for structural. than it does for. It's a wildland urban interface. Now, we plan on using that vehicle for kind of a dual response, when we're doing rescues, et cetera. We're gonna move around and come up with policy to be able to have quick response from like Station 2 in the south, in those areas where type 1, you should have no rhyme or reason to be putting type 1 into.
So Brian, did you say that motor's a Cummins in this Type 1 engine?
Yes, sir.
And I was very pleased to hear you say this is the upgraded engine. And as far as you know, this upgraded engine has been solid.
That is correct.
Okay, great. I'm very pleased to hear that.
That is correct. Also to let you know too, that even though the truck was originally delivered to Boise Mobile, the cabin chassis to Boise Mobile Equipment, and they've semi-built the truck, it's been sitting since 2019. So one of the biggest concerns they had was the warranty. So again, I reached out to all the vendors and my contacts at the vendors, and the warranties actually don't start until you take delivery of the truck.
Wow, that's great.
It's great.
So that's another bonus that you have as well. And Chief, my understanding is that your current type 1 didn't even pass an annual NFPA pump test.
It did. I had them reduce it to a 750 BPM.
So you had to derate the pump.
Correct. Yeah, engine 2, not engine 1. Engine 1 is our 2016 Pierce. It's the 2002 something that went from down to 750, which is the one that you would replace, and then the Pierce would go into second due.
And Chief, does that affect your ISO rating when you actually derate a pump like that?
No, because we're going to, the current one, yes.
Yes.
How we sit right now with that reduction, yes, it does. So
Okay.
this will bump us back up, and then bringing the type 3 in with greater pump capacity will be better off than we are currently right now.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions either for Brian or for Chief Daly? I think you really lucked out on this one.
It's a good opportunity.
I would entertain a motion, please.
Who moves to approve resolution 24 series of 2022? Resolution authorizing the city of Leadville to purchase one type 1 fire engine for Leadville Lake County Fire Rescue.
Green seconds. I haven't gotten to do
I think she beat
anything
you. I think she
tonight.
beat you to it, man.
Record shows green.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Luna Leo.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Fergency.
Yes.
Councilmember Tharp.
Yes.
Mayor Labbe.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'd just like to thank Lori, the county, Brian, thank you very much for all your work, hard work and dedication on this. It's been a process. And, I'll get the ball rolling for the commissioners, and then I'll just give you an update as it comes. So, thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for being patient.
Yeah, no kidding.
Good deal.
You haven't thanked Emma yet. She's still here. Okay. The calendar, anybody, want to jump in and talk about the calendar? The school art show is this Thursday at 5 o'clock. And if you haven't ever been to it, it's really neat. It's a big fundraiser for the art students.
Is that at the Meridian School?
It's at the, well, it's always
Where it
been. in the
usually
past.
is, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like
where-
up in the gym.
yeah, up in the gym area. Get outdoors,
Great
Leadville
cotton
has,
candy.
huh?
Great cotton candy.
Really?
Yeah.
Every time, never fails.
Get outdoors, Leadville has their open house this Saturday. There's other stuff here, but nothing about, oh, I do have one thing I want to talk about. Commissioner Fiedler and I have been invited to sit down for lunch with Senator Hickenlooper on June 1st, because he wasn't going to get to come to Leadville, so his staff has invited us to come have lunch with him. So that's quite a privilege.
Have fun.
I'm going to. Got lots of questions.
Good.
Lots of things he and I don't agree on. Okay, anybody else?
Thing
Please.
is with a heavy heart that I announced that I will be moving into Ward 3. So I know that the city council representatives of Ward 3 are excellent. I look forward to being their constituent. But unfortunately, I will have to vacate my seat. My family and I have moved over to Chestnut Street, about 3 houses over the line. So.
We're gonna gerrymander the wards.
Well, I
We
appreciate
talked
that.
about moving them around, but Ward 3 is too big. We do need to trim it up.
Okay.
It's really been an honor and a highlight of my year to serve with you all, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to getting back involved as soon as I can. But on that note, I would just plant a seed with council and mayor. I do wonder if the system of wards is serving us, and if at-large council seats would be more of a benefit, especially given that we don't have a ton of people lining up to serve on city council these days. And I don't know.
But we've
how
got the
much-
right people.
I don't know how much the wards really matter in a town of our size, but just for
Yeah.
future consideration, it could be worth thinking about.
Thank you. That has been bandied about, could be a conversation. We would certainly need to have it, before September.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
When's your last council meeting gonna be, Cisco?
I believe this is it.
What?
Yeah.
I know, you didn't give anybody notice, so we can't have like a cake or.
Oh, yeah.
Hip, hip.
Purposely.
Well,
If you go to my house, we have
just,
cake.
What's your new address?
approving
That's where the next city
fireworks.
council meeting is
That
gonna
was
be.
fun.
Could I ask Cisco to stand in for me on the 21st?
Yeah, can you be a proxy? for Ward 3?
Proxy
If,
voting.
if Christiana stamps that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we tried to talk her into some stuff, but no.
She's like, no, don't put this on me.
You can do that, can't you?
I'll text her and tell her we got.
Christiana's on vacation and
I-
Evan said, we're good to go.
I don't think I've ever
She's
seen
on a
this.
plane till Monday.
we
I
should
think
take
she'll
her
kill
on.
me.
Are any Ward 2 residents here still? Want to run? No? Okay.
Does anyone know where Ward 2 is?
No, nobody actually knows.
It's
To
like the
to Cisco's
thinnest,
point.
Tiniest ward.
I've looked at it so much and I still can't figure out who exactly is in it and who's out of it. So.
We were on an evening walk the other night and my husband was like, is this in Ward 3? And I'm like, it gets really janky down here. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, we are going to miss your service.
We
It
sure
is
are,
a- It is
Cisco.
a loss
You
to
have
the
been
council.
remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a really important voice to lose.
It
I'm
is
super upset
10:04,
about
and
it.
I hate to say that this is Cisco's last moments of this particular city council.
Wow.
City council is adjourned.
Just be there for 1 year before you can be Ward 3.
Right, which will be just in time to run for my seat.
That's all I wanted for my last.